Hello there friends, and welcome to today's Sunday Tea Time live stream, live as always here from Nottingham in England. Welcome to the stream, thanks for joining me today. As always, do come say hello in the chat. I think we're running live and everything's still working okay here. I've changed quite a few things here in my streaming software. I've had to actually reinstall that twice this past week to get it set up, along with my Stream Deck software. Hopefully it's coming through okay, you can hear me and you can see everything working okay. So welcome to the stream, and if you are new here, my name is Darren and I stream here every weekend here on YouTube. And the streams are recorded so you can watch any parts that you missed or rewatch the stream again to see exactly what I did and which features I used. And these streams are a chance for me to work on some drawing or animation in OpenToonz or Tahoma 2D. And for you to watch along and ask any questions about what I'm doing or about the programs themselves. Thank you, Maria, appreciate that. So today I've got another drawing stream, part 2, where I'm going to attempt to sketch, ink and colour, if I can, Prince John from Disney's Robin Hood. So stick around for that. And to not miss each stream, do hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified of when I next stream. Or you can keep an eye on my socials on my Twitter, Facebook or Discord, where I share a link to the stream each week in plenty of time, so you can check what time I'll be streaming in your part of the world. Thanks for joining me today, appreciate you being all here. Let me just do one quick thing before I go any further. I'd like to have one more experiment with putting music in the background, because I've had difficulty the past few weeks of having music coming through. So if you can let me know if you can hear any music, and I'll change the settings to fix it as necessary. So who have we got with us today? I saw Tom came in nice and early. Hello there, Tom. Welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. Vug was here 9 minutes early, and you can only stay for half the stream. Well, I'm glad you could join us at the beginning anyway. Great to have you here. And of course, Maria. Hello, Maria. Welcome to the stream. And it's Double O. Hello there. Shocked Santa? I'm afraid not. He's gone back to the North Pole. He's got some work to do before Christmas, so he's not hanging around at the minute. Not until he appears again in the Discord server, maybe. So if there's another Santa appears, you never know. He may well pop up in the kitchen. So we've got Diode Media. Hello there. Not seen you for a while, Diode. Good to have you here. So is the music coming through? Let me change a few settings and see what I can do with that just before I go any further, and then I'll get that out of the way before we start on today's actual exercise. So that's that one. Let's go to the desktop settings, and so it's on the default device at the minute. This is more for my notice later. So the second item down, digital audio. Let me just change to that. That seems to have cut the sound off altogether. What's the next one down? Is the HDMI. I don't think it's the TV. So let's try the last one on the list. The NVIDIA audio. See if that's coming through. See how that goes. We've got Bert. Bert W. Good afternoon. Hello, welcome. Good to have you here today. How are you doing? And we've got 7B, I'll call you. Hello, welcome. Good to have you here today. Great to see some new names appearing. We've got Vivi's Doodle World. Good evening. Hello, welcome. Good to have you here. And we've got User. Hello there, User. So I've made a few changes to try and get things a little bit smoother here on the stream. One thing I've added an extension to Google Chrome to allow me to do this. There we are. So you can put your comments on the screen separately. So if I'm answering to a specific comment or question, I can see it on the screen what I'm talking about. So I've got a question here from Vuk asking if I'll ever try Blender for something. Let me see if I can bring that up. There we go. Okay. Will I ever try Blender? I think at some point I may do. Initially, right now, I'm really happy with working in 2D with OpenToonz, but I've definitely seen the benefits of Blender for bringing in, say, a 3D background, or at least placements for 3D background, especially if you're animating it or moving a character within it. So I can see it being really, really useful to have Blender in your toolkit to be able to bring it into your software and into your animation workflow. So possibly one day, no plans to right now though, so certainly not this year. For the next few months I don't plan to. And 7B is Indian. Hello there. Welcome, great to have you with us today. And we've got Robert. Hello there, Robert. Welcome, good to have you here again. Yeah, I guess it can from my side. There's nothing different over here as far as I can tell. Looking at my settings, it's telling me I've got a good connection over through YouTube. But I am working directly through YouTube today and not through my software that I usually use, which is Restream.io. Okay, it looks to be going okay. I can't see many drops, but you never know. I'll keep an eye on it. Let me know how it goes, and I'll keep an eye on how that's working from my side. Look at the stream health. Yeah, it tells me everything's healthy and working okay, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes through the stream today. Cheers. Powered by tea again. Got a lovely cup of tea ready to get me through the day. Okay, maybe that might slow it down. Let me try again, Tom. Let me see if that changes anything here. So everything's still running smoothly, but we'll see how we get on. 720. Oh, I did change my... This is one of the points I need to look into a little bit further. Because I reinstalled OBS, I did back up and restore my settings, but potentially I could be running on slightly different settings. So that's something I perhaps need to look into this week. So we'll keep an eye on how it goes. Keep letting me know how the stream's running today. But I may need to take a look at that and review them again, the stream settings. I didn't check over those, to be honest. That's something I should have looked into, but we'll see how that is. Just check, I've got Discord open. Yeah, Discord is running in the background. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, 1280 720. It normally is 1280 by 1080, so I need to check on that. And I'll up that for next week. I can't change it today, I don't believe, while you're already running through a stream. So I'll leave that for now, unless someone thinks differently. Yeah. Over here in YouTube Studio, it tells me about any dropped frames, and that's telling me everything's okay. Yeah, I need to recheck on that, so we'll see how we get on today. I've actually got a message coming through on YouTube Studio now. You don't want to see my stiff face, you certainly don't. We don't want that. I will get that fixed. I wonder if I can change anything. There's quite a few settings that I did change from the defaults when I first set up OBS a year or two ago. So let's see if I can do anything today with that. I don't want to mess about with the options too much today, but if it makes the stream run smoother, it might be worthwhile. Yeah, the bit rate, I remember I changed a while back. I can't remember what I changed it to, so I'd have to review that. It's tempting to try, but that's what I'm thinking. Thank you, 7B. Appreciate that. Well, hopefully you'll learn a few things today as we go through the sketching and drawing. We'll see how we get on and what we managed to get through today. So last week I did some... Hi there, Robert. Having trouble with Discord. Can you resign and then rejoin? I would hope so, but what kind of troubles are you having? Because you'd still want to use the same account, I imagine. So you'd be handy to use the same email address to log in with. Depends what issues you have. It might be worth popping it in the chat here and seeing if somebody in the chat can help out as well, if they've got any ideas on what's best to change with that, or if you can do anything. But you can certainly leave the Discord server. Whether you have to create a new account when you come back or if it recognises you, I'm not sure. Am I looking a bit large in my chair today? I seem a little large. We'll see how that is. Yeah, so last week I did a quick sketch of Prince John from Disney's Robin Hood cartoon. Because we had a new king, obviously, last week, I wanted to do something a little bit royal, do something a little bit sketchy with royalty. So my mind immediately went to Robin Hood, the Disney cartoon. But I didn't really get time to warm up or to practice or to kind of rehearse at all. So the drawing was a little bit messy and not very good. It took me a while to get through it. So I had a little practice yesterday and did some sketching, which I shared on the Discord server you may have seen. Let me bring the screen down here. So let me pop this up. I've got a speed paint of what I was doing. There we are. Okay. That's really strange. Yes, I'd certainly try, Robert, and come back in again, create a new account. Or if you've got a different email address, maybe use that to create an account with. It's normally pretty straightforward to create an account and work with Discord. Well, I saw a little buffer then. I was watching my screen to one side. Yeah, I need to change those settings. It may well be this new pop-up comment plugin is making an issue as well. Maybe. Okay, let me pop this video on. Don't you worry about that, book. Your spelling. We'll pick out what you're trying to say. I know when I'm typing in comments on someone's live stream, my spelling seems to get worse, and for some reason my writing's all over the place. But we can pick up what you're saying. Okay, so I started yesterday. I took about an hour, I think, on this. And I started by dropping in a few images from the reference database that I talked about last week. You can find a link to that in the description below, and dropped them into 3 different columns, and I wanted to draw his head mainly, was what I was aiming for. So I put them in 3 different columns and then used the animate tool to resize him and place him on the screen so I could see all 3 heads together. So you can see me just adjusting these at the minute and placing them in the right place. And I tried to pick heads where he was facing in different directions to get a feel for the character and how he's built, rather than trying to just copy one particular pose. So obviously I started with the basic sphere for a head. And I was trying to figure out his muzzle, how that fitted onto the main head shape. And I kind of got now, I think, a better feel for how that fits. But because he's so flexible and the way he moves, it kind of distorts it quite a lot. And in some images, he doesn't quite have the same shape. They're really flexible with how they draw him. But working through this certainly gave me a better idea, a better feel for the shape of kind of his muzzle. You can see me drawing it here, but I've broken it down into the muzzle on the left-hand side at the top there. And then to the side of it, I've kind of got a more angled version to consider the actual shape of where his mouth shape is drawn and where it attaches to his body, to his face. Because really his head is basically a sphere. It's not very complicated. It comes in a little bit at the sides, and the muzzle fits on the bottom of that sphere from just below where his eye level is to the very bottom of that circle, and then it can bend downwards away from that as he talks. So you can see me here. I've now hidden all the reference images. I'm kind of just sketching from memory what I saw from the shape to try and get a better feel for it by drawing what I think it should look like. And this kind of came through okay-ish, but not the best, so I kind of kept on working with it. You saw me bring up the reference image that I also pushed off to my second screen, so I could see that while I was sketching as well. So I was sketching not only the basic shape, but then I'd drawn a bit more detail to it. Vog, try not to share too many links in the chat if you can help it. There's quite a lot in there. But thanks for sharing those. I think a few people will find those useful, but don't share too many. Okay, so then I continued, and again I put my reference onto a different screen and sketched again. And I drew through the basic shapes first again to try and get that foundation right. And I believe on top of this one I added a lot more detail. So again, starting with the basic shape of the muzzle, and then from that I threw the mouth down and tried to get the size and length of the chin of where that reaches to. His eyes I was struggling with each time. I wasn't quite getting the shape right for them. They're either too close together or not circular enough or too circular. So I need to keep working on that. And it's kind of tricky because I can see with the sketches what's wrong, but I find it really difficult to make them right, to correct them. And this is something I just need to work on and take some time to practice over. So that's why I did this yesterday and why I'm doing this today. What kind of word is ish? You hear it a little here and there. Whereabouts do you hear it? What's it referring to? Unless you mean ish as in nearly like it's square-ish, like it's nearly like a square. Yeah, similar to like. So the nose was constantly bigger than you thought it would be, says Awkward Penguin. Yeah, I was struggling. I mean, the bottom right drawing I'm doing here, his chin seems to come out a lot further because I've drawn his beard coming forward rather than down. Again, I need to keep working at it, keep practicing, and try and be judgmental with my work to see and admit to myself what I've done wrong. You see me there adjusting his head. I made the sphere too wide, so his head went too far back. I was finding that last week as well, that the distance from his side of his mouth to the back of his head, I was leaving too large of a gap. It looked not quite right. Yeah, and then after drawing his head, because you hardly ever see him without his crown, and in the references I've got, he's always got his crown on, I wanted to put that on as well to add to how he looks, because that really finishes off his look. Without that, he kind of looks a bit naked, is not complete enough, so I threw a rough crown on some of those images. And then I realised I wanted to make sure I drew his hands as well. I want to have a little bit of practice with his hands, because it's mainly a head and his hands, and then kind of his big royal cloak around him. So I drew a few hands on this second page. That's right, Vivi, yes. Lots of circle guides, absolutely. So I did a few hand shapes here, again based on the reference. So on my second screen to one side that you can't see at the minute, I've got lots of reference up there. So I've got a specific pose, and this one is kind of almost got his fingers as he's tapping them together. He's sort of got them a little bit apart. You can see the rings on the fingers, and they are very much like a lion paw or a cat paw, the way they've been drawn, with a very long palm and shorter fingers at the top. Because last week I was just kind of drawing his head, just to get a feel for drawing him. Whereas today I want to kind of draw him in a scene, in a pose. And I'll show you the pose I've got in mind shortly. Hello there, Robo259. No, I haven't. I've never drawn anything in Blender. I did install it on my old laptop a while back. But that was to take a look at something that was shared with me, a Blender scene. But apart from that, no, I've not tried using Blender yet. So this next one again, he's got his hands in fists, got them in the air. Now I was drawing these before I'd fully decided what pose I wanted today, so I didn't know how I wanted his hands to be, but I just wanted to have a practice at drawing them. While the computer was set when I was recording, I thought this is a good time to do it. And this one's, I really like this reference image because it was very expressive, as they are in quite a few of the images really. But in this one he's holding a pen and he's got his fingers really wide and pinching between his thumb and forefinger. So I wanted to draw that again just to get a bit of a feel for the hand and just for bit of fun, really. So again, you can see me resizing things. I'm drawing the fingers too short or too long, and I'm trying to keep things quite loose, which isn't really I tend to be quite precise when I draw, which isn't useful for sketching. So I was trying to be as loose as I could, so not erasing so much as drawing until it felt like the lines were in the right place, and then afterwards I'd go back and erase the lines that aren't in the right place. So this one here, he's got his hand sticking out like that, showing his rings. You can see that I've drawn them on top. Again, to finish off the whole shape of the hand. So if you draw the hand without the rings, you're only drawing half of what you're going to see in the final version. And I think that's about it. I can't fit it in another one, we'll see in a second. So I'm drawing at the top right here, a bit more detail. Not too much, just to kind of finish off the head there, as he's cheering away. So that's what I did yesterday, just to get a bit of practice with sketching the character, to get my sort of hands feeling loose about him, ready for today. So if I jump over to my drawing room, and I'll show you what I've got in mind today. So if I bring this down, this little reference image, it's a little bit too hidden there. So the layout I want for the character really is this view on the left, of where he's facing to one side and he's got his arm up holding something, and here he's holding Sir Hiss in his hand. But I want to change that to be holding a sign is the plan. But I didn't like how angry he looks on the left, so I was going to replace his head with this kind of goofy look. So this is the head I want to start off sketching and drawing today. Pop him inside this body on the left with that kind of layout, and then I'll pop a sign in his hand, and I'll no doubt rearrange and adjust the size to make him fit on the screen. And I'd like to finish that sketch today, move on to what we call inking, but because of the style they've got in the film, I've not decided yet what brush I'm going to ink with. I'm tempted to use a pencil rather than the brush, so the lines still look quite rough as they did in the original cartoon. And if I do that, it means I can't use the bucket fill to fill, so I'd have to use the paintbrush tool. So that'd be a different thing, a different way of colouring than I'd usually do. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm seeing errors over here on my YouTube studio. I don't know how it's looking for you, if you're getting buffering as well in between. I suspect so. I'm getting errors, so I'll have to fix that up. If we can cope with it today, then we will. If it's too bad, let me know in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that. I've got it on my second screen as well as above my head here, so I'll keep an eye on that and see how it's working. If it's too bad, I will just end the stream and perhaps restart a separate one later, or continue off stream. Okie dokie. So that's the image I want to do. Let me pop that onto my second screen up here, and I will refer to that myself as I'm drawing on here. I've got my tablet settings open there, and I've got my backup tool which is running. Yes, that's running here. Let me, before I go any further, hit save on this, because I'm using the same scene and the same project as last week. So I want to make sure I've got a backup of where we are now, so I know exactly what I've been working on. So let me hit save all, go back here, and then give this a name, before part 2 stream. Make a copy. Let's take a look at the project folder here. Just see what's in the backups folder. So there's a few there that I've saved since. Let me delete all non-named backups. Just only have the backups that I've named. There's a lot of things in temp. I'll delete that separately. So just minimize that and leave that running in the background. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I'll bear that in mind. Thank you. Okay, so let's change a couple of things here in my view. So I've got the chat on screen above me, but if you can see just behind here we are, in that column there, I've got the level strip. So let me remove that because I don't need that. I'm not animating today. The workspace isn't locked. That's not ticked. So I can just grab the header, drag it out, and then press X in the corner to remove that. And that gives me more space then for sketching. Although I still might use the full screen option for that. Okay. So here's the sketches I did yesterday. So that's the head sketches in frame 3. Frame 2 is the sketch I did last week, and frame 1 was kind of the overdraw I did in week 1. So heads from yesterday, and I've got the hands and paws from yesterday too. So if I go to frame 5, and I can right click and choose create blank drawing, which for some reason, yeah, it never seems to work when you use the context menu. But if I just press the Alt D key, it creates a blank drawing in that frame, which is a bit peculiar. Okay, if you need me or want me to zoom in on anything or explain things further, thank you, Tom, for mentioning that, because I know the stream isn't very clear today. Let me know, and I can always take my time to show you a bit neater. I very rarely draw in vector. I tend to use vector only for sort of some simple backgrounds or simple fills, especially where I want to use the gradient fill. So Toonz raster is my favourite level type to draw in. Okay, so I'm in a blank drawing. I'm not going to bring in any direct reference here. Great, that's good, Tom. Let's hope it stays that way. And today I've not really got much of great interest to say, so if you do miss some things, it won't be too much. No, rasters don't have auto in between. They can't have. It's only vectors that have the auto in between option. Which again is another good reason for using the vectors. So if you want the automated in betweens for parts, vectors are perfect for it. Even as a guide, to have a guide that animates across a number of frames, vectors are great for that. Okay, so I've got the reference image on my screen over here. Let me start with his head first. So I'll select the brush tool. I've chosen my pencil option. Pressure's turned on. Let me just check. Yep, that's working okay. Last week I think the pressure was off because I was drawing everything in kind of a darker line. Yes, as Tom says, with the animate tool, you can animate for all level types if you want to just do movement, scaling, and shear is the other option. But if you're talking about the auto in between to change from one shape type to another, that's only vector. How do you draw a guide? What kind of guide do you want to draw, Rover? Depends what you're referring to. When I mentioned about the auto in between into create a guide, I was talking about having lines move automatically across a number of frames, and that's then the guide that you'd use on a different level. Yeah, and then yeah, I figure you meant animation guide, but it depends what you want to have the guide of, because you may just use the ruler lines across the top and left of the window. So if you click on this grey bar at the very top, you might not be able to see this so easily in today's resolution, but you can drag a line, so you've got a guide line down here. I can add a second or a horizontal one, so they could be useful guides to draw against. There's a few different ways for ease in and ease out guides. If you create a vector level, I'll show this quite quickly here, and select the brush tool. As I say, if you draw a shape, so I'll use the rectangle on frame 1, and then duplicate it by pressing the D key on the next frame. So now I've got the rectangle in 2 places. I can then use the control point editor, select the rectangle, and I can move it to where I want to. I can resize the shape, change the shape like this, and then using the auto in between tool, you can in between those 2 guides. Just before I go any further, just check on the chat. Yes, the auto in betweens, yes. Yes, exactly. So I've got 2 drawings here, the square and the moved guide here, different shape of the 4-sided shape. Let's open up the level strip, select on the second drawing, and I've got a video all about this. You can see if you check on my channel about auto in between. It's on the home page, you kind of can't miss it. I tap the in between key to create some blank drawings, select on all the drawings, and then you get to see this in between button only for vector levels. Click that button and you can choose to ease in or ease out, one or the other, both or none. If I choose both and hit in between, and now it creates the in betweens of those drawings. So if I select them from the level strip, I can put them onto the timeline, and then you can see that shape changing and in betweening. So that could be a guide where you then create another level and draw in front of that. So you can imagine this as a perspective guide as you're walking down the street or turning, and that's the side of a building perhaps. There's a video on a couple of videos actually on the channel. You could take a look at that. Okay, so with the brush tool selected and on the pencil brush, so the image I'm drawing, as I say, is him looking over to the right. It really does, Maria, it really does. For things, especially mechanical things, you say like doors opening or something of a robot or something mechanical, it's really, really useful. We can use it for other things as well. Yes. So you don't have to use the auto in between lines as the final lines in your animation. They can just be a guide. Yulichek, hello there, good afternoon. Good to have you with us today. We're having a few problems with the stream today, Yulichek, so it might be a little bit fuzzy for you. The resolution's a bit low and we are getting a bit of buffering happening. So hopefully it'll be okay enough. Okay, so let's get this guide, this chap drawn on here. So I'm looking to the right. The first thing I'll do is one thing that always bugs me is the red cross in the middle of the screen. And that's the camera, the center of the camera. And unless you're going to be animating the camera or need to know where the middle of the screen is, I like to hide that. So if you go to the view menu and untick camera box, that gets rid of that little red cross and the red dots from around the outside. Okay, so let's think how large I want him to be. So I'm looking at the image on the right that I've got for the prints. I'm thinking here, and that gives me space. Just a quick sketch of roughly the size of him, like this. And his arm is here. It's quite a thick robe. And I want him to be holding a sign. Something like that. So that's kind of the rough positioning I'd like to have in here. Might need to move that over, so if I grab the selection tool, move that over a little bit. In fact, if I bring up the lines for the rule of thirds that I've got in, I've not got it set up at the minute. That's a shame. Yeah, because I installed a Untitled build, so I can't do that. But I'm trying to think of getting the main character on like the third line and the sign on the third line on the right. Likewise for the thirds horizontally. But I can sort of see that's close enough. If I use a raster to vector converter program, can I use these vector images in OpenToonz? I'm not sure quite what you mean by that, Robert. A raster to vector converter program. If you're thinking about drawing vectors in a different program and importing them to OpenToonz, or creating vector images in OpenToonz for a different program, which way around did you want that? So you've got a few different options for that. So that's the rough layout here on frame 5. So I'm going to go to frame 6 for my actual drawing. I'll press Alt-D. I'll turn on the onion skin just so I can faintly see in red where I did those rough sketch lines. So I can draw in a separate drawing different to the layout drawing that I did. Yes, I did watch Coraline book. Quite enjoyed it. Not as much as some other films, but it's kind of okay. I've seen it a couple of times now. Okay, so I've got his head here. That's a rough sort of size, but I'll bring it a little bit smaller because his face goes around that. So get a little sphere in there. It's kind of looking, in fact, because of where that is, let's make this larger. I did that a bit too small. Let's hope so, Vivi. Fingers crossed for me. It'd be cool if you could turn Adobe Animate drawings into OpenToonz drawings. Why can't you? Depends what Adobe Animate can export to. If you can export to PNGs, you can import the PNGs into OpenToonz if you want to. But the main question I'd ask is, why would you want to? Why work in two different programs at once? So his eyes are... in fact, let me start that again. Delete. Here we go. Okay, I was looking at the wrong image. So his actual face is more towards us. Let's get a circle in. It is more towards us here. It's kind of looking up a bit dazed in this reference image. So his eyes are kind of across the line here. Get them a bit rounder than I've been doing. That's not too bad. And then the snout joins just under the eyes. Then it comes out and then back on both sides. And then the mouth is kind of coming towards the camera here. So it's about like that. Let me zoom in a little bit for my benefit and yours. It comes around a bit to a curve at the bottom like this, and then it joins across to where it's on his face there. Okay, if you've got the asset pack that opens in Adobe Animate, you can always take screenshots or render images and put them into OpenToonz if you want to use them. But if you haven't got Adobe Animate, does it not come with images you can use or previews you can take a look at? Screenless tablet. I had one for about 10 years, VV, before I got my screen tablet. Really enjoyed it. I didn't have a problem with it. And in some ways it's better than having a screen tablet. So not a problem at all. Exactly, Maria. Yeah. Let me just move this up a little bit because the angle is a bit more towards us rather than away from us. Okay, that comes around here, and then the mouth sort of comes down. And it's peculiar how it's drawn because you can see the edge of the snout here, but you don't see the edge on the left-hand side. It kind of blends into the back part of his sort of mouth that joins the face there. So bring down the nose part and let's get the is open mouth in here. And I found that adding the mouth in sort of helped me to find that three-dimensionality of where the I'm not just drawing lines, I'm drawing around that snout object is kind of what I'm feeling here. Yeah, I started screenless too, and I recommend everybody to do so if they can, or if put it another way, they don't need to feel like they need a screen in the beginning. Using a screenless tablet, it's like going from a mouse. As a step up from that is a screenless tablet. Works really well. You'll feel the improvement straight away. Adjan, hello, welcome to the stream. Good to have you here today. Intergalactic, okay. Okay, let's get his mouth in here. And again, I don't add too much detail, but let's at least figure out where each of the features goes to. Okay, so again, that's a little bit too low, so I'm going to bring that up a little bit, trying to get a feel for the proportions of where his parts of his body are. Jose, hello, welcome. Good to have you here today. Nice to see you again. How are you doing today? So I've got the chin here, and the way it's drawn is that his little beard goes onto the chin, which goes straight onto his neck, which kind of looks like that kind of a view. But then we've got this line changing the colour around his mouth. Okay. So before I get too much detail, let's put the rest of the shapes in. So above his eye is where the crown goes. So let's get the rough position for that. So I'm looking at the layout of where things are. I've got his eye here. The ear, it sort of starts halfway between the eye and the edge of the sphere for his main head. So starting here is where the ear comes out. I'm looking at the line for the crown as well, of where that is. So it kind of curls up as part of the middle of the ear, and then the ear comes around it like that. And then the edge of the crown sort of sits before the edge of the ear. And there's some extra little fluffy parts of the ear there we'll get to later. And the opposite side, his head, comes in a little bit where his eye is. And this is where I struggle to get the proportions between the two. Okay, let me use the selection tool, grab a hold of that, and using the control key, bring this corner down a little bit. I've not quite got that circle right, so let's try again for here. Right, okay. So I'm just keep adjusting it while I've got this kind of really rough sketch line on here. And again, I'll keep using the selection tool while I can, but I may need to delete and redraw parts of it. This isn't quite wide enough. So again, I'm grabbing the control key, let's bring that up there. Like that. It's a little bit better. Because in the original image I've got, the side of his head goes behind the snout. So I want to make sure I've got that in the right place. So let's, again, copy this. It needs to be bigger. Bring that around here. I don't need to be exactly the same as the original, but let's at least get it close. Let's grab the eraser for some of this as well. Yeah, I've not worked on a screenless tablet for a while. Let me sketch over the top of that rather than keep moving it with the selection tool. Maybe I should go back and try it again sometime. And this is where I start changing my mind and redrawing and struggle to get the actual image I want to get. So I'll keep erasing around the parts I don't want. So yeah, so the dark of the nose comes round here onto the front. Make this a bit smaller so I can really get in there. Step back a little bit on this one. Okay, because this is where I was kind of yesterday. I was moving things around and not quite getting the right feeling for where things should be. Okay, and that just come around there. Okay, and that needs to come a bit tighter in. I can actually hear my cat in the background. If you can hear yet, should probably get a little bit closer. Meowing for attention at the minute. I might do the neater lines over the top. It'll make this a little bit better, I think, than it is at the minute. Let's move on from that for a second. Okay, so we've got his eyes here. Let me bring the eye a little bit closer. So he's kind of buzz-eyed a lot of the time, looking down here. So I'll pop that in again. It's kind of part of the character of how he looks. Okay, Rover, no problem. Hopefully speak to you later. Your scene's not loading properly. The Toonz file could be corrupted. Well, depending how much work you've got in your Toonz file, sometimes it's better to start a brand new scene and re-import your drawings and assets again. But if you've been using the animate tool or the plastic tool, or there's just a lot of columns and levels, it can be a little bit frustrating, to say the least, to have to re-import. Depending on what the problem is with the Toonz file, you might want to go to the backup version, the .back file, and perhaps try and load that one instead. Could be useful. So I'm looking at where the size of everything is again. So is the ear large enough? Just about, I think. He's got lots of fur sticking out here, which then comes down his face. And again, yesterday I found that once I started adding some of these extra little pieces in, it started to look a bit more like him, like the character we know. His other ear has to come around here as well. Just sneaks up from behind his head up to the crown, and the crown again sort of sits on top, just inside his ear. So let's drop that crown on again so we can see again more of how his head really looks. So it's quite a thick band around here, something like that maybe. Top tip, Tom, thank you. Create a backup of the folder before you do anything. So if something goes wrong, you've got everything to revert back to if necessary. Okay, I think what I need to do is muzzle. I don't think I've got the right angle, so if I copy all of that and just rotate it, I'm looking again at my reference over there. That's better, that is a lot better. Don't want too much fur down there, but there is certainly some down there. I think I need that to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to grab the control key, just stretch that out a little bit there, yeah, okay. Oh, testing an effect, yes. Thank you, Maria, for mentioning the backup tool. This is why I try and run it, backup tool, as soon as I can. On the streams, I often run it before I even start the stream to make sure it's here so I don't forget. Because I'm juggling so many things here, it's easy for me to forget to start it up. Or when I start a project away from the stream, I'm more concentrated on working on that effect or trying to draw that character, so I forget to start it up. So yeah, I try and do the same, get it started, make sure it's working, then I forget about it. I'd double that, Jose, absolutely. The expression videos that's linked on the Discord server, really, really useful. I've pointed a few people to them to take a look at them if they're interested in expressions, or even just using the effects and the function editor. Really useful for taking a look at. I'm going to leave that for now, as this is for the head. Let's get the rest of his body in, and then we'll come back to that if necessary. So let's just pop his sort of neck in here, and see if we can get this connected to a body. Okay, so his body here is in a big cloak, so it's kind of like that. Comes around his neck, and down here, and then the thicker part, which I think is ermine, I think they call it, comes sort of down like that. Okay, so it's ruffled up over his back and then up over his arm. Okay, let's continue his back down there, and the arm comes through this like that. Oh, I like rabbits. That's a good choice. Definitely a good choice. Okay, so his arm is sort of coming over here, and it goes in front of where his chest is. It overlaps there, but I need to make sure the lines don't overlap too much. We don't want to get that line joining on and getting confused of which line is which. So let's do the same here. So that comes down, and then his arm sort of drapes off here. Like that, and that's where his hand, one of his hands comes out here, and we'll get onto the hand in a second, but let me just get the rough placement for where it is first. It's a little bit thick there, so let's just bring that up a little bit. Okay, grab the eraser and take off a couple of these lines so it's clear where everything is. So his arm comes here, and of course it's a big thick cloak, so there'll be lots of creases up here. And then this comes down again, make sure the lines don't meet with the other lines of the sleeve there. Hitting save regularly. Save early, save often. And I'm back. Okay. I've just been practicing double O. I'm not there yet at all. I'm not comfortable with drawing his face, but we'll keep pushing at it. I do watch Aaron Blaze. Yes. Great channel. Obviously amazing artist and animator. And I do sort of try and keep an eye on what he's up to as much as I can. And I would only wish that one day I could be as good as him. But for now, I'm just trying to improve from where I am. Okay, so his hand's coming through here. Bring that around a bit more like this. So again, looking at the reference of roughly where things are. So the other arm, don't need to follow exactly what I see in my reference image here, but I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on it to keep the characters consistent. And again, we have the extra thick wrist on here. And I'll try and get as much drawn in the sketch as I can, so I don't have to make too many decisions where I do the clear ink lines, but I can vary from the sketch a little bit as I do the ink lines later. They're not strictly 100% of where the lines should go, but they certainly give me a good indication. Okay. So I'm drawing the arm in a slightly different place here to the reference image. And again, we'll get some creases in here. There's a little bump on here, and then that going up there. I keep forgetting to rotate my image. Let's do that. Grab the eraser on those lines. Reset the rotation. Hit save on there. Okay. So then his wrist comes out again towards the top of here where this is. Try and keep the thickness of both wrists similar. And again, let's get a box in here for his hand. A little bit bigger, something like that. Again, keeping the hands the same sort of size if I can. Right, now that's done, I can add in the back part of this. I'll do that overlap in the ink more than here, but yeah, that'll look nice like that. Needs to hang a little lower, I think, for that to look right. Okay. So I don't know how the stream's looking at the minute. I can see 1 or 2 issues over on my screen over here. It's showing that it's buffering right now. Yes, I really need to work on the settings here. Okay, right. So actually, because I want him to be holding this sign, I need the hand to be vertical so that the sign will go through it vertically as well. No problem, VV. Yes, enough procrastinating. I fully agree. I am the world's worst procrastinator. I'll always put off what I need to do in favour of doing things that I shouldn't really be doing. So yeah, you crack on and get on with that, and hopefully speak to you soon here on the stream. Have a good day. Have a great one. Okay, so let me actually draw some details in for the hand now. We've got the rough shape here. So we've got the thumb first, of course, coming around. And then the fingers are kind of 3 fingers here. Actually, the middle one is slightly larger. Get rid of some of these lines so I can see what I'm doing. And they tuck in behind the thumb, and then here is where I can have the pole, but we'll get to that separately. Put a couple of markers on the ruler there. I can make sure I draw the pole as straight as I can. Not sure if I'll use the straight line tools or not yet. We'll have a think about that. Okay then, Vuk, no problem. Have a good day. See you soon. Bye bye for now. Okay, let's look at the size of this as an overall view. I had drawn the sign further to the right there. I don't know if I can move the sign more to the right. Looking at it, his hand looks really small here. So I'm going to use the selection tool, make it that little bit larger. So again, we'll make this one larger to match, like that. Let's draw in the fingers here. Just got a very simple sort of hand shape here. It's kind of making a fist there with his other hand. Question here from Bert. Working with raster levels, the ink brushes are very unsmoothed unless I zoom into pixel size. Is this an OpenToonz issue or perhaps the tablet driver? Critter doesn't have this problem. Well, it depends. You can turn on the smoothing. I'm in a Toonz raster level at the minute, and with the pencil brushes, there's no additional smoothing you get whatever you draw. But if you choose the standard brush, you'll notice you've got a smooth option on the toolbar. So if I come to the right hand side here, let's make this a little larger so it's really clear, and do some zigzags. If I turn on smoothing to a high amount, as I do zigzags, those lines are smoothed out. I tend to find when I'm using smoothing, 10 to 15 works. But if I go up to say 20, if I'm doing a long line, you can see the line sort of lags behind the pointer, and it means that line I'm drawing is a much smoother line. Whereas if I turn smoothing off and draw quite slowly, you kind of get to see more of the wobbles of my hand. And you might not be able to quite see that on the scaling we've got on the stream here. But if I zoom in here, at the top, you can see this part of the line. It's got a dint of where my hand slowly wobbled as I'm trying to draw. But if you turn smoothing up, you don't tend to get that as you draw smoother, as you draw lines. The lines are so much smoother with that turned on. So standard brushes is the way to go if you want some additional smoothing. So if you're, as I'm doing here, sketching in pencil, you don't get any smoothing. But if you're then drawing with ink to do solid black lines, definitely the standard brush is the way to go. You can also turn a smoothing option on for the raster brushes by going to the settings. There's a setting in there for adjusting the smoothing, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Okay, so I'll leave that hand fairly simple. If I bring in the reference image here, you'll see the hand is even more simple. Is left hand here. If I untick the other image, I'm only showing one image, you'll see it a lot better. So his left hand here is kind of a really simple shape, and if anything, it's a bit messy, not even a hand shape. So I've added a bit more detail by adding kind of the backs of the knuckles onto there. Okay, so that's the hands in the right place. I think his other hand is still a little bit small here. So let's make it a little larger and I'll match the lines up of his wrist. So grab the eraser on those and then draw that in. That's much better. Okay, so I've drawn the cloak, but his underclothes needs to be in here as well. You've got a bit of pattern on, but it's kind of just a pale blue. I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. Okay, Robert, no problem. Thanks for dropping by. Catch you next week. Okay, I just want to make sure I've got everything that I need ready for the smoother ink line, the final line, in a few minutes. So clear off a few of the other lines I don't need on here. Okay, let me zoom in and add the crown, finish that off. First I'll grab the selection brush and I'll draw around where those lines are, and I can tap the delete key to erase them quickly. I'll also turn off the onion skin so I can't see the red lines underneath. Let's add a little bit of detail onto the crown here. So it's got an extra kind of thick part around the top and bottom of this. And again, I'll start erasing some parts that I don't need to make it easier for adding the neater lines on afterwards. And again, a thicker part around the top. I need that overlap, which gives it that sort of 3D feel. And sort of talking of smoothing is making me think that maybe I should use the standard brush so I can get some smoothing on here for these larger, longer lines. Okay, then he's got the little top parts of this, and I will have a little pencil line to mark where they go up to. Try and be as light as I can so they're all the same length. And then draw these darker, and they have got little edges on them. So the first two, you can see the back part, the back edge here, and then the next one you can see the front edge. Don't need to be super neat, but let's try and get them looking as neat as I can. Okay, so we're looking at the very edge of this one. Let's pop a little bit of the back part there, and because his head's up you can't see the back turrets through here in this particular image. I think I need to make them a little bit larger though, so grab the control key and stretch them up a little bit. Let's see how that goes. Just make them a little bit taller there, but a little bit too short there. Then I'll tidy it up with a brush. Okay. Okay, let's throw a couple of these jewels on the front so we can see exactly where they are. Just noticing, actually glancing at the original reference, there's no rings on his hands in that particular scene, so I might add them in. I'm not sure yet, I'm not too sure. So it's got a diamond shaped one first. It's far too low, put it in the middle. And they've got some extra dimensionality, but they are quite skewy in the picture I've got there, so I'll sort of add my own on here, I think. Okay. It's got one over the end that's sticking out. So again, last bit of overlap there, always useful. And it is sort of not quite the right shape. It's stretched a little bit. And one down here. So there's a diamond under each of those little turrets sticking up here. Olufemi, hello there. Welcome. You seem to have popped a message through. I've either missed the first part of the message or you're about to type it. So I'll wait a second for you to finish off. I'm not sure what the question is. I did see a question similar to this earlier on possibly Reddit or Discord, I'm not sure, about the rendering didn't render all parts of your animation. I don't know if that's what this one is for and is about. Okay, let's pop a diamond on here. And add some thickness to it. And then in between, you've got some other little gems. Like that. It was on Discord, was it? Okay, yes. Something wrong with the rendering, I remember you saying. Yeah, you drew the drawings on another layer. So that's likely going to be that you've either turned off the rendering for those layers, and if you look at the bottom left of my screen, if you can see this, in the column header, there's two buttons. The leftmost is an eye shape, and that button stops rendering or allows a column to be rendered. So make sure that is visible, so it's turned on. The next one to it is, can this column be seen currently now while I'm drawing? So if I turn it off, you can't see the drawing. Turn it on, and you can. So that's two different options for the same column. So make sure that is turned on. Apart from that, the main issue is likely to be in your schematic, which is why I believe I asked for some screenshots. So if you look at your schematic, every column needs to be connected to the X sheet. So column 4 is my sketch level, that's connected to the X sheet and then to the output. So that will be rendered. But if I click and drag over that line and press delete, now that column can't be rendered because it's not connected. So you want to make sure all your columns are connected into the X sheet, then to the output. So yeah, it's why I asked for a couple of screenshots just to let me see what you got on your in your scene. Thank you, Tom. And as Tom says, if you choose preview to preview your animation in OpenToonz before you render, that'll show you what will be rendered. So again, at the top right of the viewer, there's two buttons, both eye shapes. Click the leftmost of those two buttons, and that'll then show you what the rendered view will look like. And click it again to go back to the drawing view. So if you're currently getting columns not being rendered, if you go to the preview mode, those columns will disappear. So as you make changes, keep checking the preview mode to see if you've fixed it. Yep, and the stacking order that Tom's mentioning there, that's if you've used the animate tool and tried to move the position of something. If you've accidentally held the control key, you'll see the cursor goes to this little arrow with a Z on it. And if you click and drag up or down, you change the position order in Z depth. So you may have moved some drawings behind others, which makes them not visible. So that's just 3 ways that a column can be hidden. There's a few more, I believe, as well, with effects and something else. But for now, give that a look. Let us know how you get on. But as I say, screenshots of what you've got would really be helpful for us to look any further. Let me just remove that key. Hit save. So that's the crown drawn. Let me just check over a few other things. So his ear's quite large. I'm just going to finesse a few parts of this drawing now, erasing parts I don't want. Okay. I think that's just about right. His eyes, still a little bit not quite right. I think this one's too round. Let me grab the rotation tool and try and bring that in a little bit more. I don't want him to look too evil. He's kind of looking friendly. Oops, hit the eraser. Just to keep working on that shape. And again from the opposite side, let's keep sort of drawing over the top until I've got the right shape. So kind of an almond shape on here. And again, grabbing the eraser just to take out some parts of the lines I'm not needing, so I can more clearly see the shape in here. Reset the zoom. It'll come out. That's a lot better. That's a lot better there. Much happier with that. Okay. So that's the sketch. So last chance to adjust anything. So I might want to bring this line over to match those because I haven't adjusted it slightly. In fact, I'm going to delete that and start again to make sure I've got this in the right place. So I've adjusted the size of his hand since I positioned where I might want the pole for the sign. So make sure he's got plenty of thickness of his hand there. So I'll erase the line that's on here. Okay. I need a little bit thicker of a wrist, I think. Yep, to match the other one needs to be thicker anyway. But I want to have more of his palm visible here, next to his last finger. And then coming down to his wrist. So as I say, I'll make these adjustments now, not later. Okay, that's fine. Let's draw this line on here. I could have just left the rulers in there and then drawn it on later. But I'd rather get everything in the sketch that I can. No doubt I will still make some changes later, but for now that'll do for that. Let me reset that. I've not been flipping today, which I should have been doing. So let's have a quick look at that flipped. So I can see the top of his head there is too straight. Let's turn it to the flipped side and have a look. So that line here, if I do it dark, that one there, grab the black pen. That line there is far too straight. So let me grab the brush and bring that in a little bit. Again, grabbing the eraser, taking away the lines I don't need. And then we can see that curve coming through from the crown, like that. Good, let's reset the view on there. So I'm going to take a short break, I think, for 5 minutes. I'll get a fresh cup of tea, and then when I come back, we'll do the neat lines on this. I think that's gone well so far. I might make any other small changes to this before I get to the neat lines, but I think that's pretty much there. So I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, so I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. See you then. And welcome back. Okay, let me just turn down my music on this side. I know it's not coming through to you at the minute. There we are. Good. Thank you to everyone that shared their art that I've put into the kitchen today. And if you want to share your art, you can post it in the Discord server. And there's a link to that down below. Okay, let's crack on with the next stage here. So I was looking at this just before I came back, looking at my image here, and there's a few things about this, the proportions, that's not quite right. So I want to see if I can fix those up before I go any further. So I want to rotate his head is one of the first things I want to do. It's quite a nice view in my reference image, and his head is more rotated. So like that. I want to take a look at his muzzle again and rotate that background a little bit more, because it seemed a bit, there we go, it seemed a little bit twisted the wrong way. So that's much neater there. Yeah, that's much better. The neck is fine there, and that's about it. Superb. Right, so I need to now move on to the neat what we call ink lines, even though I'm not actually going to draw them in ink. I think I will stick to the pencil lines and see how that looks, just to do something a bit different to what I'd normally do. Also, I want to make sure that there's room for my sign here, but I think that's going to be kind of fine. I'll add that in later when I get to the neater lines. Okay, so to add the neater lines, I'm going to create a new level for this. So I'm already in frame 6, so creating a new level will create a new column for that level. I want to Toonz raster level. So let's get these two mixed up. There we go, the left icon, Toonz raster level. So I'll add that. I won't bother changing a new name. I'm happy with where it is. I'll press OK. That'll appear in a column above my sketch. Let me start naming these columns, so I don't get them mixed up. So the sketch column first, then there's the neat lines column. I'll just call lines for now. The references I've got in here, which ones are they? Let's have a quick look at these. If I just hide that and take a look, because I might use some of these for the colours. Yes, so I'll leave those in there so I can use them for the colours. The sketch line, I will change the colour of. I'll add a colour filter to this, and I'll use dark yellow so I can tell the difference between the sketch line and my neater lines. And I'll bring down the opacity so it's not as dark. And that's it. So it's just a matter of drawing the neat lines over the top. So I'm in a new level, so I've got a new palette here. Just here behind me. You can't see that at the minute. If I bring that down, actually, it's just behind my head. So there's the two default colours in here. So I'll add a third one, a third palette entry, and I'll go to the raster tab. If I turn off the chat for a second, or at least hide that window. So the raster tab, let's try the darker sketch brush and see how that looks. So it's got a messy edge, which is what I want for this, to match the original aesthetic. It's quite thick. I'm not sure if I need a thinner one. Let's just try drawing on here. That is very dark. But again, looking at the reference, if I bring the reference image down here, the lines are sort of a dark charcoal grey colour, so I think that's possibly going to be okay. Again, to this day, doing the ink this way is a bit of an experiment, doing something different, see how it goes. Of course you can, Olafumi. Yes, you pop them into the Discord server. I've got that open on my second screen up here. If you pop it into the questions, OpenToonz questions channel, is probably the best way, in the help section. And I'll keep an eye for that coming through. Okay, so I'll start again with this. So let's open here. Okay, so before I start drawing the neat lines, let me go to the backup tool again and let me name the backup the last backup that was created. So I'll call this one Sketch Complete. And hit make a copy. And if I go to my backups folder, you'll see all the backups that have been created, which are created every time I press save. So then back in my backup tool, I'll delete all non-named backups, and all the ones where I've not given it a special name are deleted. So the last backup is the one of Sketch Complete and the one at the start of sketching at the start of today's stream. So I've got an easier set of backups that I can step into to take a look at the stages I've worked with. Okay, so I'll zoom in a little bit, grab the brush, I'm using that brush, and let's just start drawing this in neatly. And I'm using the same brush for all the lines, so I don't need to change between different parts of the body or the face. But I will make some small changes as I'm drawing to get a better line. So I'll be using what I can see here more of as a guide for some places. And I will try and use the rotate tool a little bit so I can get a neater line. Nearly. And I've got pressure turned on. If I turn that off, that's the sort of line I'll get, which is a greyer line. With pressure turned on, it goes a lot thicker and a lot darker. So I'm tempted to start again with pressure turned off. Let's see how that looks. Gives me a more consistent line. Although that's a bit, keep zooming out, that's a bit not quite as curved as it should be. I don't want to keep zooming in too much if I can help it. So I can see here I need to change the line because the eye doesn't quite go up high enough. So we'll draw that a little bit higher. Okay. And looking at the original reference of where the pupils are, they are really down in the corner here, and they are black, almost solid black with a bit of white on, but I'll do solid black for now. I can always add the white highlight, the specular highlight later, either in this column or in a separate one. Hello there, Titus. Welcome to the stream. The backup tool here is a separate program of mine that I created for backing up OpenToonz projects. So every time you press save in OpenToonz, it creates a backup on disk. So that's a separate program. You can download it from my Gumroad site, and there's a link to that in the description. Let me just share that. There we are. And that's where you'll find the backup tool. And it's got a video on there you can watch first to see exactly how it works, how to set it up and what it can do. So you might find that useful. It does require a small donation, but it is very, very small. UK money, it's only £1. But that's just to help kind of the support of the programme. Sometimes on his nose I've noticed it goes straight across the top, which is what I'll do today. Other times it's almost like a ellipse, where it's got a dent in the middle and it goes down. So if I exaggerate that, it kind of goes up, then a dent, and then down at the top here. But I'll stick with the single curve, I think. Let's try and straighten this up because it is a little bit leaning over there. Okay. I do want to change this mouth. It's not quite open enough. So again, I'll check on the reference of how the mouth looks. So I want that to be a little bit wider here. Like that. And I didn't add his little teeth in, because he's got two, it's quite large actually, two little teeth at the bottom of his mouth sticking up like that. Got the eraser, take off that little bottom part, there we go. Okay, let's get this as right as we can. It actually joins onto there, like that. And then it comes round to that corner. Like this. Yes, I'm afraid it is Windows only, unfortunately. Okay, and then that comes round the back to the mouth there, yes. Let's try going up and meet in the middle. Like that. Good, okay. Let's move on. I think if we go to the crown, I can then bring down the rest of the drawing from the ears. So let's see how neat I can get this line without smoothing on there. Not too bad, and the top line to match. Good, okay. May as well continue with the crown, I think, the main part of this. And then add the jewels on separately. Although I'm trying to make this line as neat as it can, I kind of do want the hand-drawn look for this, so I don't mind it being a little bit wobbly. But I'd like to have the thickness looking roughly the same if I can. And before I go any further, I probably should have done this before. I'm going to close down OpenToonz and then restart it. And every now and again, I like to do that. I get fewer crashes that way because I know that there's 1-2 issues with the memory usage in OpenToonz. So it has been known to crash while using it and after using it for a long time. So by restarting it, it clears out all the memory issues, refreshes it, and allows you to run for a lot longer before you're likely to get a crash. Okay, so that's the top part of the crown there. Go back to the brush, make sure I'm on the right frame and I've selected the right brush palette entry. Grab the rotation. There we are, a lot easier this way. So I want to do the top line here. Go steadily across there, and then it's going to be the line joining the top and the bottom part of the crown. And to add the 3D-ness, we want the top line to come around it and not join onto the second one. That makes it look a lot nicer. Like that. I won't add the jewels yet, we'll come back to that separately. Okay, so now this is the fun part, doing his face and adding that fur in. And it's so tempting just to start drawing straight lines, but again, glancing at the reference image, I can see where the additional bits of fur on that they've drawn. So there's just a couple of sort of little wisps like this, extra little lines coming through. Okay, and then here we've got some extra little things here. just a little bit, and then it sort of seems to come around quite smoothly into the bottom here. Okay, then is right, so that part of line is a bit of a fur. So it starts off coming to the side and then end up going sort of down and round his face. Sort of partially into his neck like that. That's just fine. And his neck is a bit of a curve, so I'll just throw that in before we get to his clothes and go down the other side of his face. So again, looking at his ear, he's got a little bit of tufts coming out here, a little bit of a wiggle, and then it sort of seems to come reasonably straight around there. Okay, and then again on this side of his face, let me just get my reference image and move that so I can see it a bit clearer. Okay, so it's a little bit roughly around here. And again, it comes down. Okay, and I want to make sure I've got his mouth in here first, so I know where I'm joining onto, or where that's going behind of, I should say, like that. Just bring the size down a little bit, so a bit neater with the erase. Oh, there you go. There's the clue for you, Jose. As soon as the undo stops working, that's 100% the time to hit save, close OpenToonz and restart it. Yes, undo going wrong is one of the big red flags to know when you need to restart the program. And Olifumi's sent these screenshots. I'll have a quick glance now, but I don't want to stay too long on this, obviously, while we're on the live stream. But let's see what we've got. Okay, let me bring it over onto the main screen. Actually, we can all see what I'm looking at together. Okay, so let's just click on some of these and take a look. So I can see here where the yellow eyeball picture is, that they're all enabled, so they should be rendered okay. Oh, you've got some sub-X sheets. And you've got a peg. That's the schematic, stage schematic. I don't know if you've got the FX schematic in here as well, though. And you've got groups of columns. I've used groups, and they're really handy for organising, so I don't know if that could potentially make a difference in some way. It shouldn't do. Really shouldn't do. But glancing down these images, I can't see anything wrong here. I think what I'd suggest is to try and reduce the columns that you've got in your timeline for rendering. And I don't mean delete them. What I mean is turn off some of the columns so you've only got the bare minimum that shows the problem for yourself. So the column that's working and the column that's not working, and hide the rest by clicking that I button, and have those two, and then we could perhaps try and figure out from those two why it's not showing the column that you need. Hello there, Vuk. You have got the animation tool lots of animation keys on here. So potentially, as Tom said, it could be an issue with the Z index. Let me put this back up here a second, and I'll show you what you could do for that. So if you go to your one of the rooms with the function editor in, so the schematic room is the one I'm using here, and where you've added a key, so I'll get my sketch column. Let's do it on here for now with the animation tool. If you're trying to adjust the position and you hold the control key to move it in the Z pane, would you call it? No, the Z orientation, to bring it forwards and backwards, it'll add a key into the timeline. And then if you go to the function editor, find your column at the right hand side here above my head and open it up and click on the Z. You can actually click on the name of the column itself and it'll show all the columns. But if you look at the Z column here, you can see it's been set to 11.41 and that should be 0. But if you've accidentally added a key for the Z, you can just click and drag in that column, make sure you're covering any keys you've created, and then tap the delete key. And that removes the Z value, so it pops it back to where it should be, so it'll sit in the order of the columns rather than being separate. So that's worth having a check of. And if I go back to my drawing room, I can delete the key by selecting it and pressing delete. You've got a glow effect on the layer, shouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't be an issue having a glow effect. I don't believe the glow effect affects the stacking order. But yeah, check out the Z in the function editor. Okay, so back to where we were. Let's finish off his little beard. So grabbing the standard brush, go into my ink column. Let me lock the sketch column so I can't accidentally draw in there. If I try and draw in the sketch column with it being locked, you see this no entry sign on screen. As soon as you try and draw, you get a pop-up telling you it's locked. So then you know you're in the wrong column. So it's worth locking columns so you know exactly where you are drawing. Thank you, Rook. Thank you. So I'm selected on my brush, my pencil brush tool. Let me again grab the rotation so it's a bit easier to draw the face because it's sitting vertically here. And again, I'm looking at the reference to see exactly how the beard has been drawn and how long the sort of strands are. And let's just draw a few on here, nice and rough. And they curl around at the edges in the direction. So on the left they curl to the left, and on the right they curl to the right. There we go, nice and straggly. A few extra little marks on there. Okay, and then that comes round to the neck, but again, oh, the undo went peculiar there. So again, as I said to you, if the undo goes wrong, even though I've just started, hit save and we'll close it down, and I'll draw that again in a second. Reopen OpenToonz. And that may be because I was using the animate tool, because I've deleted a key in the function editor or the key on the timeline. Messing with the animate tool or the plastic tool is the #1 reason I've seen problems occur. So let's come in here, grab the selection tool, I'll highlight that and just hit delete and we'll start that again. So let's just check with the brush selected, I'm in the right column. If I draw something and press undo, that undoes. We're back and working again. So again, I'll rotate this back round, which will make it easier to draw these bits of his beard in the right direction. Let's go a bit slower and a bit more determined of drawing things in a line as I need to. Draw the outside first. Again, a couple of these loose lines in here. Okay, hit save, back to where we started. Right, so the neck, it comes up here, but it is quite, again, get the rotation right, it is quite loose, and there's kind of a couple of lines coming through to show the fur, like that. Hit save. I'm not going to add the line for the rest of his muzzle coming down here because the colour differentiates the two areas, as you'll see when we get to the colour. I saw that about Winnie the Pooh being in public domain because I believe I heard someone say the other day there's a Winnie the Pooh zombie film or something coming out, someone's been making, because you can make whatever style of film you like with Winnie the Pooh now, with it being public domain. So let me go onto the body, and I need to have this zoomed out quite a bit so I can do the longer sweeping lines. In fact, hit save. I'll go full screen with this to give me more screen estate to draw longer lines. Okay, so you had some Z positions. It may be you need to delete and you have Z positions in the other columns. So you may have deleted the one in the column that you know is wrong, but you also need to delete the one in the column you know is right. Because even though you've reset one column back to 0, if you'd moved the other column slightly, just by a little bit, it'll still be in front. So you need to check through all the columns, Z values I'd suggest for that. Okay, I'm going to change my reference now to look at just the this reference here with his body, so I can see the outfit better. And it'll make it easier for me to do the ink here. I'll start with the hands and then move inwards, I think. Actually, let me do the cuffs here first. Grab the eraser, make sure this line appears to join up, so it comes down here. Like that. Okay. And now I've done that, I can add in the hand. There's knuckles here. It's quite large, that one, so I'm going to bring that back a little bit so it doesn't look too much different to the other fingers of where they are. Okay, let's add in the rest of the sleeve here. I'm trying to think of the overlap of which lines need to be drawn first, and I can move off of those to create the secondary set of lines. So the ermine needs drawing first, that's the white around his neck and around the sleeves. So I'll add that in first. So this comes over his arm, so I'll add this. And again, we were talking earlier about tablets and screen tablets, whether it's screenless or with a screen. With a screen here, as I'm drawing, my hand gets in the way to follow the line, to trace the line of the sketch. So a screenless tablet would be so much easier to do this. So I'm having to do this in reverse and come up, which isn't very natural for me to draw, so that's a bit annoying. Absolutely, you can reimagine it in any way you like. As I say, make them all zombie characters, make it a comedy, make it a disaster film, or whatever you want to do. So it's really, really fun to have a consideration of what you might want to do for these characters. As I say, I'm using the sketch level as a guide, not as a line to trace necessarily. Okay, and then we've got his back that comes down here, and the arm. Try and get a better line for that. Okay, we also want some creases down his body, as I've started to put in. Try and have them following the angle of the body, which adds to the 3D-ness here. Okay, let's get his other arm in his body here, so that comes around. Actually, I'll have that joining on to there. And then this one is a little bit higher. Looking at where it comes around his neck, so again, make sure the lines follow through the body. So when you draw on your sketch, really you want to draw the line, you know, through the neck as though the neck's not there, to make sure that it will join in here. Okay, then his arm. So again, we'll start with the sleeve here. So let's draw up and over, and again try and get some folds into this so it looks like it really is a real piece of material going around his body. And because I can see I've made that much narrower, so I'm trying to make sure I extend this out to make it wider. Over here. And join that up there. So I hope you're doing well today. Feel free to share any of your work, of course, in the Discord server that you're working on either now or at other times. Always like to see what everyone's working on. And as I say, next week I will share some of it in the kitchen. So if you've got anything to share with the rest of us, then pop it into the Discord and we'll take a look at that. Okay, let's get the fingers right. The thumb should be overlapping the fingers here, so I don't see the ends of those two. There we go, good. Ah, awesome, thank you Tom. Let's take a look at that. Ah, you've gone for Robin Hood himself. Let me open that in a new window, I'll bring that over here. There he is. Superb. Oh, nice one. Did you do some construction lines over the character first, or are you just sketching by eye, looking at the reference, Tom? Which way have you taken it today? I'll tell you what, something I can see that you have done here. Excuse me. Is you've added the furry ruffles on his elbows. Really makes all the difference adding those in. That's something I've noticed Aaron Blaze doing in his animal sketches and animations, that at the elbows he adds that little ruffle around the edge, which makes it feel a bit furry without drawing fur all the way around the outside. By eye, okay. Yeah, no problem, Maria. Absolutely, you work on your 11-second club. Keep cracking on with that, and keep sharing it. It's nice to see it coming through. And hopefully, I'll be joining you again to join the 11-second club in a couple of months. Once I've got back onto my animation practice that I want to do, that I'll start with next week. I've taken 2 weeks out working on this just for the reason because we've got a new king in the country. Otherwise, I'd been working on that for the past 2 weeks. But next week, we'll be back on the animation practice. Yeah, he looks really good there, Tom. He's got definitely got his 3D-ness. He feels solid. That's good. Great, thank you. Okay, so where are we? Let's get this sleeve in here. We've got the extra thickness going around the wrist, so this line doesn't join up at the top. It's got to join up part way down. That's a bit too curved. That's better. Okay, now we've got this crease coming off the elbow, bit of another one, and then I'll add a little extra line. Rotate this round so I can get to this line, and it just comes up here to the top. Let that sit there as an extra little crease coming out of his arm there and sticking out. It adds again to the thickness of the line you can see. Go around his neck, and as I say, he's got some extra lines on his chest here. I don't want to draw too many because it'll get quite busy, but let's add a little bit in here, so I can see there's a circle on this, just to show there's some sort of texture underneath there. Okay, then the last thing I need to add in onto his body, onto the costume, is he's got some extra lines. I don't know if that's stitching lines or something else along him, so I'll add that on there. Thank you, Double O. Appreciate that. It's something that I'm trying to get an eye for, and it's something I easily forget. So adding the extra creases, again, having reference is vital for this, for me, to see where they've added creases to get a feel for the material moving around. Start from the sleeve so I can make sure it joins away from the edge. And it feels like one of those things that you just need to practice and practice and practice, and one day it'll just feel like second nature. You'll draw it, you'll add the crease, you'll add the fold, you'll add whatever you need to do to it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to get to the point where you suddenly realise, actually, this is easy. I know what I'm doing. This needs to be a little bit wider. I'm taking my time today because I'm only drawing the one frame. I'm not drawing an animation. It would be far too slow to do an animation the way I'm moving today. Okay, that's fine like that. So yeah, on his sleeves, around this white, it's got these kind of messy black marks. I don't want to do them too black, but that's how they are. Again, in the reference. Just like that, just little marks. And again, making them curved makes the sleeve feel like it's rounded. So if anyone knows what these are, do let me know, because I'm not sure. Hello there, Lisa. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us today. This is on a Toonz raster level. It would have been just fine on a standard raster level because I'm only drawing with the pencil brush, but I like to stick with the Toonz raster level. And when I get to the colour, it's really more useful because you can adjust the colour after you've put it onto the screen in a Toonz raster level. But this is a standard, it's a Toonz raster level here. It could have been a standard just as easily. Okay, and then round here is colour again. You've got the same things. So again, I'm finding myself reaching around the tablet instead of rotating the screen. So let's add a few of these on. A little one around its neck. Goodbye again, Vuk. Hopefully see you in a second. And one last one I'll do at the top here. Hopefully I can get that to, again, try and follow that curve around to make it feel like it's curving around his body. Reset that. Let's have a look where that is. So let's see what else we've got to add. Any other creases, any other marks? Again, the sleeves is some additional folds in here. Let's go a bit closer. That's fine there. Bit of a kink in here. We'll just change, straighten that up. Hit save. Okay. Oh, so let's finish off the crown. And again, that's a bit messy. The angles of these jewels is kind of what we've got on some of them, but it looks a bit peculiar. So let's see if we can make these a bit neater on here. Ah, the peg bar definition. Okay, and that's something hopefully you can fix, Jose. I tend not to use pegs myself, but I know they can be useful. Okay, and I don't want to follow the line of the diamond I've already done, but that's kind of what they've done in the original sketch, so I need to be careful with that. It just looks a bit peculiar. Again, rotate it around, because it's easier to draw some lines at a different angle. Drop those two in there. And again, the opposite diamond. And try and follow what we did on the right. So we'll go off to the side here, bring it back up a little bit and back down a little bit, and then join that up. Grabbing the eraser, just take off the edge there, because it wasn't quite straight enough. And then the centre diamond, I did actually draw that slightly wrong. I didn't see that right. So I'll kind of go over the diamond in the middle here, because that is correct. But then the thickness of it, we changed the dimensionality. So you can see on the right the diamond, you can see the left part of it. And on the left diamond, you can see the right part of it. And in the centre, again on the reference image, you can see all the way around. So you can see all four sides. So we just take this out a little bit and then add the side parts of these to get that thickness of the diamond. Then rotate this and do the other side. And again, I do want the hand-drawn look, so I'm not going to use the tools for this. I'm happy for the lines to be a bit wobbly and the perspective to not be super neat. Let's reset that. I draw everything in 2D, Lisa. I know the 3D, using 3D software would be useful, especially for backgrounds, for adding in buildings, or if you want to bring in like a car image, it could be useful. But for me so far, I want to stick to 2D as much as possible. It's my favoured look of a cartoon anyway. Yes, I know, Jose, one reason I keep forgetting to click on the comments as we're sitting here chatting. Something I should try and remember to do. It'll pop up in a second. When you group columns together and ungroup them, that adds a peg bar in often. Or if you use sub-X sheets and explode a sub-X sheet, that can create a peg bar as well. So that's one reason they do appear, and I've spotted them in my own drawings and animations. And whenever I do, I always delete them and start off with just the columns that I need to have. Cheers. Right, let's get the top of this crown finished, and then we'll be about there with the ink then. Put this back and grab the brush zoom in a little bit. Let's bring again the rotation so it's sitting horizontal. It'll make it easier to draw this in. Double O, this is something that a lot of people come across. When using vector levels, it can lag. And I made a video about lag and some things you can do to improve it. You might want to take a look at that. It's like half a dozen different tips in there that you might find useful. It's just something that does happen, I'm afraid, but restarting the program helps to clear out that clogged memory that we get with OpenToonz. And again, it's another one of the reasons I don't use vectors, because of the lag that builds up. You don't tend to get that with standard raster or Toonz raster as much. So again, I'm not tracing the lines exactly. I'm using them as a guide, so I'll make adjustments as I see fit as I'm drawing the neater lines on here to make sure they're all parallel to each other and the same length. And to get the final image. Plus, in the sketch lines, they're kind of messy, some of them. So I need to neaten them up anyway. And then finally the end one. So that's kind of round the corner, make it a little bit wider so it's clear that's the kind of long portion of that. Okay. In some of the other images you have got the back part, and I'm tempted to add some in on here. Let's see, because it can be lower because he's looking upwards, so the back part of the crown there will be lower. Let me just add one in and see how it looks. So it would be behind here, it'd be kind of overlapping like that. So let me add one in here. One in here. Let's see how that looks when I stand back in a second. Ah, latest. Thank you, Tom. That's coming along really nicely. I can't wait to see that coloured. So does that work with those extra two? I'm not sure. Let me reset the rotation again. Need to add the lines for this pole. Let me do this as well while I'm here. Make it as large as I can. Exactly. I've heard that a lot, Jose, about vectors. Either too much detail, too much drawing on a single drawing, or multiple drawings, multiple frames for an animation. You get to a point where it just lags so much or it struggles to keep up. The memory efficiency in OpenToonz isn't as good as it could be. I did struggle, that's a good point actually, when I had a lot of vector brushes, as I was using different vector brushes, I was having issues. So maybe if you're using any, the non-standard, the non-default brush, that could be adding extra load on as well. Are you a member of the Discord server, Lisa? Because I'd love to see it if you want to share part of your animation with us as you're working through it. Mud and any kind of effects animation is really fun to work with. I love it, whether it be mud or rain for splashes or for like fireworks and sparks and flames and smoke. All of that I think really is fun to work with. Yeah, I'd love to see it if you want to share that with us. Let me pop you a link. It's down in the description below, but that's where I am if you want to jump on the Discord server, join in the chat and share your work with us. Difficult to say. I think, Kozo, there's two reasons I'd use vector levels, I think. One, because I would want to adjust the lines after I've drawn them. So you can draw the line and then use the control point editor to adjust the individual points, or the iron tool to smooth out the line. And the second reason is if you're going to resize the drawing. So you want a character that's larger and smaller on different frames, you can resize the same drawing without any loss of fidelity. So if you don't want to do those two, I would always stick with Toonz raster level personally. That would be my choice, because you get the benefits of the adjustable colours once you've added them, and you don't get the lag that you get with vector, and you get consistent fills. So once a part of your drawing is filled, it stays filled, which is difficult to have in vectors. So I always tell people to experiment for yourself to see what works for you and your workflow, but I'd consider why you're choosing each of the level types. Does that help? Okay, so I'm doing these lines for the pole. So let's start with this one. So again, I'm happy to be a bit wobbly, a bit hand-drawn, but I want it to be fairly neat. Let's add that top part in. I want to remove some of the hand there, so let's start from the thumb. And when we add the colour in, you'll see precisely where the pole is and the hand is different to that. Okay, and because of this pencil brush, if I go over it a second time, you'll get a neater line. So I'm not sure how this will look with the colour behind it. Again, it's a bit of an experiment today to draw and colour in the style I'm going to. Okay, so the pole goes behind the hand here. Yeah, exactly, it is. And if you draw in a high enough resolution anyway, you won't need to upscale anyway. You just reduce the size if necessary. But ordinarily, depending how your workflow goes, you know how large you want your character. And as I did today, if you do the sketch first, resize the sketch, and then when you draw your neat lines, that is the correct size. So you won't need to resize them. So I want the sign up here, so let me draw. I've not drawn the box for that, so let me add one in here. And I can draw the pole afterwards. I don't want it too wide. I don't want it straight on the pole, so that's why I'm happy to hand draw it like this. Now raise up to where I've drawn that to there. Same at the top. Just pan that up and then erase up to the line, and I can just take all of that away. And I did adjust my eraser to have a softer edge, which makes this sort of erasing easier. And I'll add the second line on now, so it's got the thicker outline. And I'll add some kind of wooden plank additional lines in a second. No problem at all, Double O. Hope it helps. Hope it helps. And just to complete the chat, I mean, the things we're chatting about here, I've thought about making a video for the channel, because I keep seeing the question all the time of which level type should I use, is one question. And then also the question of why is my raster level pixelated? They kind of go hand in hand, those two questions. So I thought about making a video for them. And I've got details of that in my course on Udemy. So for those of you who don't know, I've got a course on Udemy that goes through OpenToonz and all the features that you need for standard traditional 2D style animation. And there's a link to that again in the description. Take a look at that if you're interested in learning more about OpenToonz. But I was going to make a video as a bit of a rough guide of how to about the level choice, how to choose between levels for your drawings and why you choose the ones that you choose. So I might get to that at some point. So as I say, to complete it, the chat off, standard raster level, There's only one reason two reasons I'd use it, I guess. It's a bit bubbly there. One reason is if you're importing from another software or exporting to another software, you can pass a standard raster level between the two. But also, if you want to use the blending style brushes or the erasing style brushes in the raster list, they only work with standard raster levels, not with Toonz raster levels. So that's the two reasons I'd use standard raster. Yes, exactly. That's a great tip that I've seen elsewhere, Lisa, that if you're wanting to do straight lines, if you really want straight lines, you can actually grab a physical ruler and place it next to your stylus and draw against it. It's something that you forget you can do. Let's take away these guides here. Don't need them anymore. Let me zoom out and go away from full screen and hide the sketch level and see if I've got everything. I think I've got everything here. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. That's looking pretty good. Let me add in a couple of board lines I wanted to put in here. So this is a board. Let's see how this looks. Let me add a with this. I don't know if this will. It could distract a little bit from the drawing. I've got the eraser. So if I erase around the join here and then put a little notch, is what I was thinking. Make the eraser a bit smaller. And there you can see the hardness value I've changed, which gives me a softer edge to the brush. Let's see how this looks. I'll keep pressing the wrong button. And again at the top, grab the eraser, go to the join, and put a little nick in it. Eraser, go to the join. I'll put a bigger one in here. Just try and make it feel that kind of wooden vibe. If I do the same at the top here, in fact let's undo that one, didn't like that one. So where does this come up? And again, grab the brush. Little nick like that. Okay, and if you're on a standard raster level, now would be a good time to use a partial eraser or smudging tool to make some of these cracks a little bit lighter. Let me adjust the size down, see if that helps. I wonder if I could make that a thinner line to look nice, and it doesn't quite. Okay. And I'll put the text over the top separately. Alright, so that's the neat lines done. I'm going to take a backup of that. So I'll hit Save All, and then go to my backup tool, and I'll enter a new name for this called Lines Complete, make a copy. Then if I go to the folder, you can see all of the other backup copies, so all the times I've hit save since, and then back of my tool I'll delete all non-named backups. So the latest backup will be the complete lines, and the previous is the sketch complete there as well. And I can hear that Mrs. T has come back from being out at her mum's this afternoon, so I'm going to pop and say hello, take a 5-minute break. Just before I do though, I want to say that if you want to help support the channel, there's lots of ways you can do so, from just clicking like on the videos and adding a comment where you see them, and that lets YouTube know that the videos are useful to you, and it really helps out the channel quite a lot. If you can help financially, you can treat me to a little coffee or a cup of tea. And there's also my Patreon that you can join. And on there you can find extra behind the scenes videos, behind the scenes of what happens here on the channel, as well as additional drawing and animation videos and downloadable content. And again, you can find the link to that down below, where you can take a look at what's available there. So I'm going to just take a 5-minute break. No problem, Double O. See you next week. Bye for now. Hello there, Titus. No, I don't think it will be, I'm afraid. I've only got a Windows computer, not a Mac, so I can't rebuild the software for a Mac, unfortunately. And it's something I've talked about with the developers of OpenToonz and Tahoma 2D about trying to get that built into the program so you don't need a separate program and it would work more efficiently to store older backups. So hopefully I'd like to see one day that tool or similar tool inside of the program itself, but for now it is just Windows only. Sorry about that. So I'm going to take a break and I'll see you back here And welcome back. So I was looking at the sketch while I was away, had a few thoughts about it. I'm going to finish off today by adding some colour to the character, but then during the week, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, I'm not sure yet, I want to finish this off by adding a background, which I'll do away from the live stream. And I quite fancy adding in, because he's quite a simple character, Sir Hiss, I believe is called, the snake, and putting them at the bottom right here of the screen, as well as adding that background. So I'll be doing that during the week, and I'll very likely record that and pop that onto my Patreon account as well, for the Patreon supporters to see, and I'll share the full HD image over there to be downloaded, and the project to take a look at as well at the same time. But for what we've got here, I want to add in the colour first, and then I'll probably add in the words on the sign, and we'll leave the stream there for today. So if you've got any questions, do drop them into the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that. Otherwise we'll be finished in the next 20 minutes or so. So first I want to add the colour for Prince John here. So let's find a reference that I've already added. So if I show one of these, let's take a look at this. Right, we can see the colours here of him, and if I bring up the opacity so we can see the full set of colours here, I'll grab the animate tool to adjust him and move him out of the way a little bit. Let's make him slightly smaller. I mean, it's not too much in the way, but let's bring him up here and we'll adjust him more if necessary. Okay, and then back in the lines column, because we can't use a bucket fill as easily because of the scratchy nature of the pencil tool, I want to add another drawing level behind the lines to put the colour onto. Ordinarily I wouldn't do this, especially for an animation. It'd be tricky to keep both columns in sync with each other, but for static drawing it's perfectly fine to do, and makes things a lot easier. So I'll hit to add another Toonz raster level. I'll put that behind the lines, and let's call this colour. There we are. And then in this, move that up there, and then in this column we'll add the colours into the palette. So let me lock the lines column and the reference column, so I'm only able to edit inside the colour column, so I can't accidentally delete the lines or put the colour in the wrong column. I'll add a new colour palette entry by pressing the plus button. We'll pick the colour by using the RGB colour picker here on the left hand side, and that allows me to change the colour of the palette entry in my colour column, but choose a colour from a different column, anything that's visible on screen. So let's choose his face, and we'll use the paintbrush tool for painting this. You can use the standard brush tool, especially in a different column, but we'll start with the paintbrush tool, and then we just need to colour this in here behind these lines. We'll keep an eye on where we need to draw up to for around the mouth. So in fact, let me start off with that by zooming in and drawing around here like that. So we're colouring kind of the traditional way here, and this is where we'll find out if the lines are dark enough for this colour to sit behind or not. Not too bad there. And because we're all in one column, I can over paint this colour with a different colour if I go over the lines. And because these pencil lines are grey, the colour doesn't go behind them, it goes sort of on top of them as well. So you kind of need to go up to and over the lines a little bit. So again, today is an experiment to see how this goes for colouring around pencil lines. So we'll see how this actually ends up. Oh, really? Okay. Thank you, Jose. If you want to create a bug report for this, that'd be really, really useful. So if you go to the help menu of OpenToonz and hit report a bug and put those details in with the bug report, preferably with screenshots or with the project itself to help the developers fix that. Or if they've got a solution, they may well come back and tell you about it. Okay, if you had solid lines, this would be a lot easier to do because you haven't got to worry about going over the lines so much. So we'll see how it goes. As I say, bit of an experiment today. Make this smaller so I can get into these gaps a bit easier. We'll go to the more detailed gaps in a second. Let's do down his neck, and once I've got some of this done, I'll be able to see how this looks, and we'll make a decision then how we're going to continue. Okay, it looks quite dark here, but that's fine. That's how it should look, I think. Looking at my reference on here, so let's make this a bit smaller. Ah, thank you, Tom. So again, the colours are slightly different on different frames. On some frames, the side of his nose is shown in black. But on the reference I'm looking at right now, it's using the same skin colour, so I will stick with the same colour on here just to match my current reference. Again, make this quite small so I can get into the little gap. Same this side. Let's make it larger for the first part of this. Yep, and then smaller for the gaps. I mean, when we was looking at the 11-second club a little while back, we were having the conversation of how you'd fill in around a pencil line. I mean, I was doing my little monster animations as well, the same then. So it's not an ideal way to work with the pencil lines having colour in, but let's, as I say, I want to see how it comes out today. It does match the aesthetic of the original. Okay, let's add one for the end of his nose then. So again, I will reset rotation. Let's grab the colour for this. So RGB colour picker, dark grey for the end of his nose. And then we'll paintbrush again. Yeah, Discord is pretty straightforward, I think, really, especially if you've not joined any of the Discords. It's simple to look at. I'm happy to take you through that here on the stream and show you exactly where Tom shared the information in a second. So it's quite a dark colour, this. Okay. Okay, and then the front of his face is kind of a paler colour. So again, add another palette entry, RGB picker, and pick this lighter colour here. Hit save all, so don't forget. Grab the paintbrush. And this goes around his mouth. I've not added his whiskers on actually, looking here. Just sort of remembered that. So this isn't the ideal way to colour, but for a single sketch it's fine. Actually, I will use the brush tool, you know, because I'm not doing any lines in this level. It's just thinking about it, because I've got the option of the draw order. So with colours I've added with this brush tool. Now because I've added those colours already with the paintbrush tool, it won't go under those, but it'll help as we work forward on this. So I'll stick with that for now with the brush tool. Also means I can change the minimum size down to be smaller and have a range of sizes I paint. So I can be light to draw in the corner there if pressure's turned on. Let's make it 2 or so. Should be easy once I get used to it to draw around there, and then press on heavier to do larger areas. That's quite a large brush. There we go. Okay, I'll do the main areas first, and then we'll come back and do the detail afterwards. So I think it's useful to go over all of the pencil, so I'm not going up to the line, I'm going underneath and over it. And here you can see where I've got no line against the bottom part of the mouth, and the colour actually differentiates between the lines on there. Let's do his beard. So again, pressing on heavy first, then we go lighter to go in between. Grabbing the rotation again. Makes it easier to go around some of these curves. So again, getting used to the features of the software, really useful, so you can pull the right tool out of the kit at the right time. So as I say here, for what I need to colour, using the brush tool, which isn't normally what you use for colouring, you use the brush tool for lines, is perhaps the best choice, because I can use the under and over options for colouring to make sure I don't go over the lines of what's already been coloured. Just go over these pencil lines a little bit here. Let me pick the other colour by using the palette picker. Plus the paintbrush tool doesn't do anti-aliasing, but the brush tool does, which could be useful to get a nicer line perhaps. Not as harsh. Again, grab that colour there, the nose colour. I'll use the standard brush tool. I'm in under all order, draw order, which means if I just colour in up to the line, it shouldn't go over anywhere where I've used the brush tool to colour into. So it makes it easier to go up to the colour and not over. Okay, I don't want to get too neat on that, so reset the rotation, and I've hit save there. As I spot little lines, I will go and colour them in any little gaps like that. So again, let's get this fur done a little bit neater. with the brush tool now. So I don't know if any of you have been watching, but I'm planning this evening, I think, to watch the next couple of episodes of Lord of the Rings, sorry. Started watching it a couple of weeks ago, saw the first two, and I've got another one or two to watch tonight. So I'll be watching that after the stream. Looking forward to getting to that. Okay, so that's his body. His hand is the same colour as his face, so I will add that on here. Just erase away any parts if I go too far over the line. So I'm going quite quickly. And ordinarily I'd use the bucket tool and just bucket fill inside the lines on the same level. And it's so quick to colour that way. But what I can do, because I'm now using the brush tool here, I went over the line, I'll come back to that, is once I've drawn my outside line like that, I can actually use the bucket fill tool and fill up to the line, and then just fill in any gaps where it missed. So grabbing the erasers, make that quite small, and I can delete in there. Good. So that's one hand. Let's get the other hand done. Let's hide the reference a second. Bring the reference high so I can see it on the timeline. And let's just do the other hand. I've heard House of the Dragon is good. I've not watched Game of Thrones at all, so I've not really. The Lord of the Rings films, the first three, are amazing. Not so keen on the Hobbit, but so far the series is going quite well. So we'll see how the next two go. See where the story twists and turns to, because they've quite clearly chosen to create a longer story to go through the whole series. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm looking forward to watching the next couple of episodes. So we'll get the get my tea this evening and then watch that. I think is my plan once I've finished the stream. So it's, what is it now? 6 o'clock. So times are moving. And my plan was, if I can possibly get this finished today, I'll be happy. The character drawn and coloured, and so far it's gone pretty well for me. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to try and go around the edge again, and we'll see how the fill tool works. I'll check the fill depth, which is something I should have done first. I suspect that was the issue with leaving those gaps. It's leaving the gaps around the anti-aliased lines. Let me rotate this a little bit. Hit save all so I don't forget. I can go around that curved line. Oh, Primal! I really want to watch that. But it's not showing on Netflix or Disney or Amazon Prime, which are the three streaming services I've got. Yeah, that looks like a good animation. Interesting style as well. Okay, that's the line finished. So if I choose the fill bucket and then increase the minimum fill depth, now when I tap it, it gets most of those lines. Let's undo that, increase the fill depth even more, tap again, just one left I can see there, undo, increase again, fill. Yep, it's just the one there, so I will use the brush to paint that in. Reset the rotation. HBO Max, yeah, I've not got that, and I'm not going to. What's the gap there I need to clear out? I've got far too many streaming services as it is. Need to delete lines and areas. There we go. So back to the brush, we can Go around the edges, make sure we've got all of those filled in. Now I'll paint that with the wood colour when I get to that. Oh, series 3, good. Adult Swim first, yes, of course. I've not drawn inside the mouth, so we need to get to that later. Let me do his costume, his clothing first, I think. That's a nice big area to paint in. So again, I will go to my colour layer, add a new palette entry, RGB colour picker, and I'll pick blue first for his clothing. I'll add another one and pick the colour of the ermine, which is kind of a pale grey, but it seems quite dark in that particular image. And then another one, I'll pick the light blue for his front shirt type clothing. And then let's start painting. So hide the reference again, hit save all. Yeah, binge all 3 back to back. Golden Slime, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I plan to be here just till I finish the colouring, so I'm thinking maybe 20 minutes, but I do tend to underestimate how long things take. But yeah, I want to get the colouring in of the character before. Blue selected, I'll hit save all. I can go full screen, which will make it easier to colour this in without scrolling around so much or zooming in. There we are. Actually, I don't need to colour that in, so undo that. Keep going around his arm. I'm using the standard brush, not the paintbrush now, to do this. I want to overlap the line a little bit. Up to where I can then just take that back to where the line is. At the bottom, like I said, I've got quite a lot over, that's fine. Okay, now with that line drawn, hit save all, come out of full screen, grab the fill brush tool, fill depth is still quite large, and then click on that to fill in that area. Yes, we do a little bit of the sharing as well of the streaming services, but we've only got the 3. However, I'm still struggling to keep up with everything that's coming out, especially Disney. They're putting a lot out at the minute. And Yo-san, hello, welcome. Good to see you today. I know. I want to get this finished. I'm determined to get this coloured in. I'm not going to do the background today. I'll do that during the week and possibly record it, I was saying. And I might put that onto my Patreon as a video on there, possibly. Yes, Golden Slime, Robin Hood, exactly. Prince John. I keep wanting to call him Richard, but it's King Richard. I wanted to draw some royalty in sort of a... Because we've got a new king, I thought I'd draw something royally, and then share the picture during the week on my various channels. And I couldn't think of anyone more royal than Prince John and King Richard. So that's what I've done. Thanks, Anya, appreciate that. It's been a lot of work today. A lot of redrawing and rescaling and what have you. But I'm starting, I think I'm starting to see a little bit of where I'm going wrong and then able to improve it a little bit, but long way to go. But this is exactly why I'm doing these streams, with kind of a bit of a drawing challenge for myself. The streams aren't a case of watch what I can do, I know I can do this well. The streams are more of, I don't know how well I can do it, but let's give it a go anyway. And then to learn from it and get better, hopefully. Okay, that's just about coloured in, and I can neaten it off a little bit afterwards if necessary. So again, out of full screen, hit save so I don't lose anything. Fill tool, fill depth high, fill that in. Yes, Maria's very busy as always, working on lots and lots of things. Grab the blue frizz vest, let's add that in. Grabbing the brush. And again, I'm in under all mode, so it should go behind any colour I've added with this brush. This first colour here, I didn't actually add with the brush, unfortunately. But let's just go up to that and I'll just erase where necessary. Let me erase just the lines. That's better, because that was filled with the paintbrush tool, which is fills. It's a nice baby blue colour. I like this. Okay, so let's just take this line down. And apologies for the stream today, it's a little bit laggy, people have told me. I need to look at my settings for the stream. I reinstalled OBS this week and I don't think I had the right settings saved. Even though I backed up my settings files, it seems it's not saved the right settings. I need to take another look at that. Okay, now we can add in the colour for the, I'm sure it's called ermine, the fluffy outside of him. Okay, so where the blues are, that's drawn with this brush, that's fine. So because I've got under all set, I can use this grey and I can go up to the edge of where I've done those lines without worrying about going over them, hopefully. So we'll see how well that works. Again, a bit of an experiment today for filling styles. Okay, so if I go, what's over the line there, if I go up to the blue, see how that looks. Yep, so now it's not drawing this into the blue, hopefully, just up to the pencil line. So I can kind of intentionally go over the edge a little bit and not worry about being so neat. But we'll see how OpenToonz copes with overlapping colours. I'm also thinking maybe adding some shadows onto this as to complete off the drawing, maybe. I'm not sure yet. Don't spend too long on it. Well, Enyo-san, that's kind of up to you how much time you give to it, the 11-second club. But yeah, it'd be too tempting to not work hard for it. So it would take a good bunch of your time. I know that. So the blues are all okay, so I can ignore those blues there. Let's go by the side of the neck. But I think it'd be pretty cool to see what you came up with. So if you do ever find you're in between projects and you want another project, that could be something to take a look at. Good question, Olifemi. Oh, I've got a gap somewhere. The 11-second club is a monthly competition and it's a website. So if you do a Google for 11-second club, you'll find it. And every month they put out an audio clip and then they ask you to animate to it. So you can animate in any style you like. You can't use, I believe, copyright characters. So you've got to be careful which characters you draw with. There's a few extra rules to take a look at, but basically animate to this 11-second clip in the month. And by the end of the month, you've got to submit it and the audience, the viewers, can vote on their favourite. And 5 days later, at the start of the next month, you find out who won or what position you came in. But it's a real good test for yourself. You're competing against yourself, really, not everybody else. It's a good practice to try some of your character animation. You haven't got to worry about it being super neat. Don't add effects. Don't add much for background. Well worth taking a look at. But if you take a look at last month's entries, you'll see the kind of animation entries there are. Don't watch the top few and get scared, because some of the top few are really well animated. Take a look further down the list, see what other people have done. And if you've got a bit of spare time, I'd say it's worth having a go at. You get ranked and you cry. I wouldn't go that far, Maria, but you certainly do. Sometimes you're impressed with how well you've done. Sometimes you're disappointed, but you compete against yourself. As long as every month you try and learn something new and work on a new technique, I think it's worth entering. Okay, let's see where we've got here. Down by the neck this side I didn't do. Let's add this. Let me fill in the other side up to the line. There we go. Okay, and then back to the first colour. Let me try the fill tool now. In normal mode, why is that not filling? Oh, on the wrong colour. There we are. Okay, good. So just fill in a couple of gaps I've got. Make sure I'm over to fill in those bits. Then back to under all again. So nothing is showing off there. So let's do his other sleeve. Yes, well worth having a go of. It's a lot of fun. And if you want to take a look at my past streams, there's a stream playlist on the channel. You'll see where I've entered 2 of the month competitions, and you'll see my progress. I worked on them during the streams. And in another month or 2, I'll be doing so again. So keep your eyes open on the stream, and maybe you can join in the same month, the time I'm doing it, and see how we all get on together. Golden Slime, 100%. Experience really is the best teacher. And this is why I'm very keen to enter it again soon, and why I talk about it a lot. Because I think you can only improve by entering it. You only improve animation by animating. And it's a great way to animate something that's a complete project. It doesn't take up all your time because you've only got a month that you can work on it and enter it. But it's only 11 seconds long. Whereas you might want to work on a larger project of your own and you won't get the full experience of animating the full project. So it's definitely well worth entering. Okay, that's his sleeves done, his hands done. Inside his mouth then. So I've not got anything in there. So let's see what colours we need. There we go. Let me have a look at this reference. Can you see in his mouth here? Kind of. You can see the colours for his mouth. That's fine. So let me go back to... let's go back to the lines level. Grab the pencil and draw sort of his tongue in a little bit of where it might be. Something like that. It's a little bit high at the back there. Okay, hit save. Then back to the colours level. Let's lock the line so I don't accidentally colour in there. Go to the colours level. I'll add a colour. Choose the RGB picker. Let's grab his tongue first, and then the next colour will be the back of the mouth. So go to the tongue, and using the brush tool, let's paint that on here. We need to do his teeth as well. Around the edges, and then the back of the mouth, which is just darker. I can go to the edge of the tongue because that's drawn with the brush, and I'm using the under all option, so it'll go behind the tongue. So I'm not going to over colour it, but I didn't use a brush for his face, so I need to be careful that I don't go over the lines too much there. Same for the back of the mouth. Go up to the tongue, make sure I'm over the lines here a little bit. Grab the tongue colour, just go over the edge of the line here, and then with that just about complete, I'll add the face colour around the back to go up to those lines. That'll fill in those gaps kind of where the pencil's got the anti-aliasing and shows a different colour. And let's add a quick one for the teeth. So I'll choose white, but we'll yellow this in a second. In fact, let's go to purple colour so I can see exactly what I'm colouring. Okay, then go to the white. Make it towards a yellowy colour. Fine. Okay. His eyes are a yellow, so let me add that. And RGB pick that colour. And because I'm painting this once, I don't need to worry about naming the colours. Ordinarily, because there's quite a few, I'd have named them. So I'm not going to just yet. But if I need the colours again, I can pick off the screen and not worry about picking them from the palette. Hello there, user. Welcome back. So grab the standard brush, this will be for his eyes. And go up to the lines and over them a bit. And we're almost there with this. And when I've finished, I'll share the image so far over on Discord and on my Twitter anyway. But I say I'll complete this during the week with a background, and I'll think about anything else I might want to add, like shadows and highlights or something maybe. And possibly, as I say, Sir Hiss I might add in as well. The snake. Again, I pick the skin colour, hit save. And I'm going to go to, first I'll go to under all to fill in any white gaps with the skin colour. Now go to over all, and I can paint over any parts where the inner eye has come to the outside. Back to under all, save, and then run the crown. So let's take a look at the crown then. So it's quite a dark image here. The second image I've got on screen is a lot lighter. So I'm not sure if I've necessarily chosen the best reference for this. So I've got that reference there, which is the one actually I've got on screen, and that reference there. So again, let me bring up the opacity. And move it to the right. So I can see the colours together. Yeah, it's quite a lot lighter, so I can adjust those colours with this if necessary. Oh, excellent, Jose. Good. Took a little while, but that's fine as long as it gets there in the end. Okay, so back to my colour level, and you might want to break up your colour levels into different levels or columns anyway, so that you can overlay them a bit easier and work with any effects you want to add a little bit easier. Let me add a new, what I should have done before, a new page for these colours, and I can name this page then Crown, and I might move the other colours to a different page if it makes it easier. So RGB picker, there's the main colour for the crown. We've got a lighter colour around the edge. We've got the blue and purple and red for the jewels. So let's start working with those and see what we've got. Let's get the lighter colour first. Oops. And I'll do these edges first, and then I can just fill in quite a lot quicker on the main part of it. And again, because I'm drawing next to where I use the paintbrush tool, if I want to erase some of this yellow portion, this is known as a line because I'm using the standard brush tool, and the paintbrush tool creates areas. So when I go to the erase tool, if I change it to erase only lines, I'll erase only the colours that I've added as a line, not the areas of the face or the skin, the fur colour. No problem, Olufumi. Thanks for joining us for so long today. Good to have you with us today. Hopefully catch you another time. Yeah, same time next weekend, 3 o'clock UK time, and I'll post the stream link on the Saturday so you can see what time it is in your part of the world. Have a great rest of your day. As I say, if I've not used pencils, if I'd used the standard brush and done black lines, if I was animating it, I certainly would not do it this way. Because we've all seen how long it's taken me to get this far. So that's one frame in, what? No, it took me far too long. Okay, so that's the two edges. So now if I take the main part of the colour and I'll make sure I'm on under all, I can now go up to where that line is, at the left and on the right. And I should be able to use the fill bucket tool to fill in the rest. Hit save. So now I can choose to make the lighter colour slightly lighter. I'll bring the saturation down. Yeah, make sure I'm on the right one. There. Just to give it that slightly different colour. Okay, let's do the top part then. So that's the darker part of the crown. So grab the brush. So the lighter parts are the small edges. So again, yeah, let's grab those smaller parts first. I'll rotate this. So I'm colouring in the natural flow of my right hand here. So the parts that's facing me, I'll colour those in first. And then we're just about there, I think. I've got the board and the sign and the pole to colour as well. Shouldn't take too much. So yeah, I'll be done by 7 o'clock, which is a reasonable time to get my tea and then relax for the evening. I appreciate your company today. Good having you with me today. And again, I'm thinking about using the fill tool here. So I'm just trying to do the vertical edges where I've not got any of the lighter colour. And then if I rotate it around that way, I can then do the top horizontal parts. A bit like we've talked about on Dave's channel, about putting in the flatting. Not worrying about highlights at the minute and shadows. But by putting the flat colour in, it means I can use the fill bucket tool a lot easier as I'm doing this. And that is they all do fill in, which they should do. I can't see any gaps there. We'll go down there and then reset the rotation. So we've got the jewels to work on next. So again, I've got the colours up here on my screen in front of me. these are quite, again, still quite dull. So let me look at that other reference I had. Now they're bright up there. I might change the colours later myself, to be honest. So let's just add some colours in and we can adjust them as need be. Up properly since reinstalling OBS, so it is struggling to keep up. I don't know how much you've heard or seen today with the buffering. I'm just kind of working through things. Hopefully it's enough to follow along with what we're doing. Lovely, lovely cup of tea. Okay, let's get some colours in here then. The actual colour doesn't matter too much, so we can adjust it, but let's follow what's on the right. So we've got the blue at the very front. Not sure why that's reset there. I won't bother using the bucket folks, they're quite small anyway. So I use the blue at the front of all of these. And if you are interested in crowns, of course, tomorrow you will be seeing a crown. It's the funeral of the Queen tomorrow. So that's the end of the 10 days of mourning. And then we'll start to see a little bit more of the king, and then in the next, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, they'll organise the coronation, and then we'll get to see the crown for sure. So this is on one side only. Make sure we're under all, so it goes behind the blue, and I can just quickly scribble over it. I'll have these at the right hand side. No problem, Benyo-san. Nice to have you join us today. Hopefully we'll see you again on another stream. Fingers crossed to get that sorted. I have got, when I set up my OBS settings before, I followed some settings guides in a video. This is going back 18 months. But I did save the video into my YouTube playlist. So hopefully if I go back and watch that, it'll remind me and get me setting the right settings. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, last one here for the diamond shapes. And then we'll add some colours to these two separate jewels on the front. So I'll have red for that one. And let's use the purple for this. Let's reset the view, hit save all, hide the old reference I was using. There we go. Now I've got the sign to colour in. So again, back to the colour column. I'll add another page, which I should have done before, really, I forgot about that. Sign, let's add a brown colour. I'll adjust this afterwards, so let's just get something on here. I'll have a different colour for the handle than I will for the actual sign, so let's just go up to the edge of the wood here. Carefully go around his hands, because that was coloured in at the beginning in the paintbrush tool. And it's these kinds of details of how to use the tools, which tool is the best for which situations. That's the reason why I think it's useful to have the enter the 11-second club, because until you actually create some animations, do some drawing, actual drawing with the program, that you really get to figure out which tool works for you for the style of drawing and animation that you're working on. Okay, that's in there. actually, I'm going over the line there, so I must have done the hand here with the brush tool, so I can go and use the under all option there. If I use the eraser just to, no, that takes away that as well. That's fine. Okay, so we're getting towards the end now. Last couple of pieces of the drawing here. Just lines. And then we'll end the stream and I'll go and grab some tea. Let's make it a bit larger. Go full screen. Give me a bit more space. And again, I want the hand-drawn look, so I want some wobbly lines. I just don't want the colour going too far out of the lines if I can help it. Almost there. Oh, it's really exciting to get to the end. Can't wait. Get out of full screen, hit fill in the pole. And I'll probably have some extra little pencil lines on the pole as well, actually, which I'll do separately. Let's not worry about that. Add a new colour here, and I'll choose a lighter colour for now. But again, because we're on a Toonz raster level, we can always change it later. Okay. Let me go to full screen, start at the top and come down here. This is quite light, so I might make it, well, it's a bit red, so I might change it a bit in a second, but let's get it all coloured in and be able to judge it better then. And I'm happy to go over the line, so I can just grab the eraser and take it back. And again, to go slightly over the edge of the line here. I don't know if I want to hand paint the message on the sign or use a font. So I was thinking of using a vector level first and putting a font on. And I'll either leave it like that or I'll trace over it by hand afterwards. I'm not sure yet. So having a quick read of the question here from user. Have I got any tips for people who want to start an animated series? I think my first tip, counterintuitively, is don't yet. Don't do it straight away as much as you want to. Get some practice in with drawing and animating so you're comfortable with the tools, you're comfortable with what you can do, and you can figure out what style you want to draw in and animate in. Because until you've worked on it for a little while, you won't know how quick you can work or if you can continue with your style consistently to create an animation. And again, this is where the 11-second club comes in, where you can create small 11-second animations just to work on the workflow of the entire process from start to finish. So working on the initial sketches up to the inking and painting and any effects afterwards. So it's well worth working on small animations first. That's my first huge tip I'd give. And then be realistic about what you can and can't do. If you can work on full frame by frame animation, if you want to use rigging, what shortcuts you want to use to reuse animation, lip syncing and that kind of thing. So work up to the animated series. And then once you're up to that stage, I'd say it's all about organisation of the assets for your cartoon, for each of the drawings, to keep the backgrounds in a shared location so you can use them in different scenes or in different episodes. So quite a lot to think about, but definitely get started drawing and animating, not necessarily on the series straight away. So hopefully that's given you a few thoughts there. Yeah, the coronation ceremonies are very, very interesting. I suspect when we get to Charles's coronation, it'll be pretty similar to his mum's. So I think he's a bit of a traditional kind of a chap. But I'd like to think that by the time we get to Harry, it gets a bit more updated, a bit more modern. I quite like the fact we've got lots of tradition in there, but things need to change. So it needs updating a little bit. Just the top to go now. Yeah, exactly. It is a real life Game of Thrones for some people. Right, now let's get these colours. Let me go to the full size screen, get these colours a bit more close to where we need them. So that's quite orangey. So let's move this around a little bit. Create a lighter colour, because I want the text on there. This can be a bit darker for the handle, but again, not too purple. There we go. It really does, and I kind of enjoy the pomp and ceremony that's put into these things. Grab the lines. I'll just put a few extra lines on the handle there. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see this one live, because I wasn't around for the last one. As old as it may look to some people out there, 70 years ago is quite a while. Quite a while ago. Just want to get a few lines on here to give it a feeling of being an old piece of wood. Yeah, I've got the pressure on, which is good. Yes, absolutely. I love, not being a religious person, but I love seeing churches, the architecture. Yeah, pretty amazing. Okay, let me just go to full screen again. Okay, that's what I wanted on there. Let me quickly throw some text on here, vector level, and then we'll call that a day for today. It's 20 to 7. Grab the text tool and click on here. Change the font size down, and from what I recall, while you've still got the text in edit mode, you can adjust the font type and the size from the options toolbar. It'll change live on screen. We try again. We've got to click and leave the cursor on screen. Let me just put text here. Hit save all again. Let's keep saving regularly. Click on there. They really can, absolutely. I'm in WebDing, so let's first create a font where I can actually see the text. So I want to put on here, long live the king. Seems appropriate. It's a shame you can't just use the cursor key. I'm sure you used to be able to click through the font. If I put the cursor up there and use the arrow key, I'd like to, there we go. You got to click in the text box. It changed, I think either 1.4 or version 1.5 of OpenToonz. You used to be able to click in the text box here for the font and then press the arrow keys on your keyboard one at a time to scroll through all the fonts. And now as soon as you scroll down, you lose the focus, so you can't shift between the fonts as easily. I want kind of a hand-drawn font, not Calibri, Not Cambria. Kandara, no. As I say, I may hand draw this anyway separately. Not Comic Sans. Oh, did you? Vector lines. I'll take a look at that shortly, Tom. Thanks. And I'm sure I'm about to see, but I'm guessing you've added your colour to it as well. That's too neat. I want to say a more hand-drawn look. Well, it's a bit too swirly, but that's heading towards... That's Gabriola. Gabriola, okay. No. Duji, no. That's not bad. That's not bad. Let me change the size. That's not bad. That is ink free. Let's remember that one. Ink free. That's the latest. There must be an easier way to do this, but let's keep going. Ink free so far then. Modern. Brilliant. That's invisible. And a sans serif. I don't have any serifs on there. Ooh. A little bit cartoony, but MV Bowley or ink free. Let's see between those two. Actually, you know what? I might just stick with that one. So let's use the selection tool. In freehand mode, I can just highlight all of that, and I can stretch it. If I hold the shift, it stretches at an even scale, and I can rotate it and get it centered. Hit save on there. Yes, I know what you mean. My hand's a bit achy today. I've been trying to relax it as much as I can. Let's take a look at what we've got in here then. Awesome. Oh, that's good. Let me pop it open. Thank you, Tom, for sharing that. Yes, I can see the vector lines really smooth, aren't they? You know what? Maybe not for today, but that's begging to practice some shadows on. If he's in the mood sometime, try doing some shadows to highlight them and add that three-dimensionality. It's a great one for doing that for. But yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Thanks, Tom. When you said move the slider up and down, yes, you can see it. Sorry, you can see the fonts in here of how they look, but it's not the same as seeing it on the screen. You used to be able to scroll down that list, add on screen, the font would change, and seeing your words in place is kind of quite different to seeing them in the drop down there. I'm going to throw in, I said I wasn't going to, but I am going to throw in a quick, just a bit of background colour. So let me insert below here, throw in a standard raster, I think. I might change my mind in a second. Let's go to a new palette entry. Just put a bit of a background in. Airbrush is what I want. You bring that open, grab a bit of a blue colour, grab the brush tool. It's quite large, make it bigger. Oh, it's quite thin because of being the airbrush. Let me go to a different one first. It's a large paint, just to, that's going to go slow, yes. That's true, Tom, because it's vector. I might take a look at that, the brushes in a second. Let me go to the standard brush actually, and I'll pick that colour. That's going to work a lot better than one of those brushes, I think. If I can find the right size, that'll do. Yeah. just to lay down some background first. We'll add some more colour in a second, okay? So back to the spray brush here. Let's pick some different colours. Undo. I just want some background colour first, just to get something behind it. I'm not going to spend too long on this, just a few minutes to get something laid down here. Grab the airbrush again. It's a little bit darker. A bit darker still. And then on to pick RGB on that colour, and then we'll adjust that colour towards blue. And again, just a quick spray across there. Let's even that out a bit. And then a lot lighter. Let's use this slider here. In the corners. Actually, if I make the image smaller, I can get around the corners a lot easier then. It's not a great airbrush, this one, for just tickling the edge. Then we go to the raster level again, raster brushes. Go to the old style airbrush. I've used that one before. There it is. Right, I don't want to go lighter there. I want to go darker. So grab that again. Pick a colour. Sort of a dark blue sort of a colour here. Just get around the edge a bit. Then start smoothing this in together. Pick the RGB picker. Ooh, the mouse wheel. Thank you. The mouse wheel could be it. I used to use the keyboard, but the mouse wheel could help as well. Right, I understand. Yeah. But the brushes comment also helped me for this, so thank you for that. We'll also take a look at doing that. So a little bit of this to smooth this out. If I actually hide the colour and the lines and text there, so I'm only on the background, it probably will work a bit smoother here. We'll grab a new palette entry and let's try a smudgy brush, which I've not used much of. Oh, I do miss the grouping that you get in Tahoma. Blend. Big airbrush there, that's quite good. Let's try Blender. Make this slightly bigger. Yeah, scrolling mouse wheel, thank you. I'll take a look at that. Just blend these together. There we go. So I haven't got the sharp lines between the colours. There we go, that's all I want to do. Just a bit of a wash for the background. Let me open those three. Go back to my vector level, it's got the text on it. Go to the vector brushes. Let me zoom in a little bit. Select the text. Let me try and adjust the brushes, see if it helps by choosing a different brush. I've sort of lost the fill on all of these for some reason. Put back to normal, add a new one. Wonder if I can do that with a new one. Yeah, Gabriola looks nice, doesn't it? What I could do as well, if I thicken it up maybe. No, a bit too thick, so I'll undo that. Select it again. Let's increase it on here instead. So up and down, click and drag on that symbol, and go left and right. Just to add a little bit of thickness to it as well. I'm going to leave it like that. I could change fonts, I could play with this all day, but I think I'm going to leave it here for today. And I'm going to render this out. Let me go to my output settings. Prince John, PNG. I'll shrink it down by half size. Frame number 6 this is. Hit save first. I'll actually delete the earlier frames, I think. Because I don't need those, or at least they're turned off, so I can bring them down to frame 1. Yeah, there we go. It's just a bit easier to see there. I'm going to highlight all of the columns and fold them. So now I'm dealing with just the columns that I can see. The background needs to be there. Right, let's go back to the output settings. Frame number 1 to frame number 1, render. And if I go to my outputs, before I do, let me go to my backup and name this backup color complete. Make a copy and then delete all non-named. Then the last item is color complete. And if I come to my outputs folder, there is the final piece. It's a smaller one, not a full screen one, but that's all I wanted to do for now for half size. I'll share that on the Discord in a second and on Twitter and all over the place as I usually do. But I think I'll leave it there for today. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you found some of this useful, and I've enjoyed your company, joining me in the chat here. I'll be back next Sunday, where I'll probably be back on my animation practice ready for the 11-second club. But I'll let you know during the week where I am on that and what I'm going to work on. I'll have a little bit more of a think about it. I may well do some more work with this, whether it's adding shadows or changing the background, I'm not sure yet. Happy where it is so far, but I might do a bit more. We'll see how we get on. Great, yeah, thank you, user, appreciate that. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next weekend for another Tea Time live stream. And that's a Darren Tea. Have you always wanted to animate but didn't know how to start, and software seemed expensive and difficult to use? Well, with OpenToonz, it's free, powerful, and once you know how, it's easy to use. And it's my mission to get you animating with it today. Hi, my name's Darren, and I've been teaching OpenToonz for the past 3 years, showing thousands of students just like you how easy it is to animate with. I'm cutting through the jargon to show that anyone can animate with it. And by the end of the course, you'll be able to animate traditionally using OpenToonz. And the course is designed for students brand new to OpenToonz, as well as those new to animation. So take a look at the free lessons I've offered below, and then why not sign up and join me animating traditionally with OpenToonz.